Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you are watching second and final part of What If Naruto Was Kidnapped by Madara at Birth. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Iruka glared at Kakashi, unable to believe what he had just said. Worse than that was even Kurenai and Asuma said nothing on this. Yes, they aren't my students, but to think of them as soldiers, this isn't a war. Hiruzen sighed at the stare-off. He had known that Iruka was well justified in believing what he was saying, having taken the test 2 years after he had become a genin. However, it was also the Chuunin's decision in the matters of their team, and meant far more than an academy instructor's. This is another headache. Just like yesterday, he thought. Flashback started. Hiruzen looked at the Chuunin senseis of Teams 7 and 10. Is this the report of your mission? Kakashi and Asuma nodded at the third. Your report is pretty much clear on what had happened. It doesn't look good. What do you mean? Asuma asked, slightly confused. Other than they encountered a ninja who had called himself Madara's grandson, there was nothing bad had happened in the wave mission. Third threw a latest clouds bingo book toward them. Check the bingo book entry number 399. Kakashi picked up the book. He opened the page that had entry number 399 and started read it loudly for Asuma. Bingo book entry number 399 name. Uzumaki Naruto. The demon slayer of the hidden leaf. Gender. Male eye color. Blue hair color. Blonde. Age. Around 13 years old. Ninja rank. Genin village, the hidden leaf village. Threat level. High C rank warnings. Engage with caution. Known elemental affinities. Wind and fire weapons. Typical ninja weapons like kunai and shuriken, and katana. Special abilities. High chakra capacity. Ability to create 1,000 clones using a forbidden jutsu Kage Bushin no Jutsu. Other information. He killed Momochi Zabuza, the demon of the hidden mist, and defeated his partner who had the ice release bloodline without getting a scratch on himself. Bounty. Zero Ryo Asuma and Kakashi read it, and their mouths fell to the floor. Well, this is unexpected. Asuma chuckled and remarked, Naruto, the dead, last of the academy, has gotten his name in the bingo book first out of all the genins. Irony prevailed. He has a solid reputation. The Demon Slayer of the Hidden Leaf, by Uzumaki Naruto. Kakashi grinned proudly and said, it fits him perfectly. He glanced at his blonde student's bingo picture. His parents would have boasted about this to all of their friends, primarily Kushina Dotsan, if they were still living. Perhaps I can boast about this to all of the Junins. In the bingo book, my student's name appeared before theirs. Haha. However, the only drawback is that he is an exact replica of Minato. Sensei. Naruto will always be in danger if the Stone Village discovers that he is the son of their most despised foe. He didn't want to consider it, so he shook his head. Then something came back to him. Hokage. Sama, I. Anbu suddenly showed up in the office. Hokage. Sama, he said, kneeling before his leader in reverence. In response, Hiruzen said, yes? The council requests your presence in the meeting room. Hiruzen replied, okay, let them know I'll be there in 30 minutes. Now, what do those idiots want? Not because of bingo book, I hope. Hi. The Anbu vanished in a whirl of leaves. Turning to Junins, Sarutobi did so. I want you two to accompany me, Kakashi and Asuma. I want to exercise caution, but I have no idea what those idiots are thinking. Hi. Both shinobi exclaimed simultaneously, ooh. The heads of all the major clans in Leaf, members of various civilian councils, and the Anbu commander were all in the council room, which was bustling with activity. There, they had all assembled for the council's special emergency meeting. Strangely enough, though, none of them were aware of the nature of the emergency. After a short while, when everyone had taken their seats in the council room, the third Hokage came in, followed by Kakashi and Asuma. What was so urgent that you needed to speak with all of us about right away, Hokage? Sama. What? Asked Hyuga Heishi. He was the Hyuga clan's current leader. He shared the same featureless white eyes and long brown hair as the rest of his clan. It's not me who has called this meeting, but I know why meeting is called, Hiruzen said. Then who? Inoichi Yamanaka inquired. He belonged to the Hidden Leaf Intelligence Division and was one of the 3 members of the Ino Shika Sho Trio. Inoichi had strong facial features, including a well-defined jawline, blue green eyes, and long blonde hair that reached into his back. He wore his hair spiky on top and ended it in a long ponytail. We did. Danzo remarked as he entered the council room with Kaharu and Homura. The founder and head of a formerly closed but unofficially active branch of the Hidden Leaf's Anbu training subdivision was Shimura Danzo, an elder of the Hidden Leaf. Danzo looked like an elderly, weak man who typically used a cane to walk. His right eye was bandaged, and his hair was shaggy and black. Utatane Kaharu and Mitokado Homura, who were once part of the defunct Team Tobirama, were standing next to him. They were now part of the Council of the Hidden Leaf. Homura had a beard and gray hair. In addition to wearing glasses, he was always frowning. Kaharu, his teammate, had dark eyes. A traditional Japanese hairpin with 2 pearls hanging off the side held her gray hair back in a twin bun. Why? Choza Akamichi inquired. Homura stated, to tell you all about an unknown ninja. What is important about this ninja? Like his son, Nara Shikaku asked with his typical slack attitude. You'll quickly discover it. Bear, Kaharu uttered as Anbu, wearing a bear mask, stepped forward holding a bingo book. Read the bingo book entry number 9 loudly for the Honorable Council. The bear opened the book and began reading entry number 9 in the bingo book. Bingo book entry number 9 name. Uchiha Ryu, the Black Dragon. Gender. Male eye color. Blue hair color. Black. Age. Around 16 years old. Ninja rank. None village. None. Threat level. S rank warnings. Flee on sight order for anyone below Chuunin. Known elemental affinities. Lightning and fire. Weapons. The second Hokage's Raijin no Ken and the Kabikirabocho, one of sword belongs to the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Special abilities. Sharingan. Teleportation, intangibility, the black lightning, and sensor.nin, assume. Other information. He is highly capable of using both lightning and fire jutsus in battle. He knows a lightning jutsu, which is looked similar to the 4th Raikage's lightning armor. Using that jutsu, he killed over 200 thugs in Wave Country in mere minutes. Another thing about him is that he calls himself Madara's grandson. We don't know how much true it is. Bounty. 350 million ryo. Every council member's expression was one of utter shock at what they had just heard. Even Inuzuka Sume, the leader of the Inuzuka clan and frequently the most outspoken council member, was rendered speechless. Troublesome, Shikaku intervened to break the quiet. Impossible, admitted Inoichi, the Uchiha Madara's grandson. In complete shock, one civilian council member exclaimed, yes, that's not possible, he must be an imposter. I'm not sure, he's truly Madara's grandson or not, but we can assure that he's a Uchiha, Kakashi said. Looking closely at the final student of the 4th Hokage, Heishi questioned, and how exactly can you be so certain of this? Asuma said, because we saw the Sharingan in his both eyes, drawing the attention of every council member to him. He began to explain the mission, saying, they weren't implanted like Kakashi's. The civilian council appeared pleased to learn that there was another Uchiha alive besides Sasuke and his mass murderer brother, Itachi, when Asuma completed his report. On the shinobi side, they appeared concerned as they considered that unidentified Uchiha's relationship with Madara. They were unaware of his intentions toward the Hidden Leaf. There was a chance he would pose a serious threat to the community. That is not a risk they would want to take. A civilian council member proposed, we've got to capture him or convince him to join the Leaf. He'll help us to rebuild Uchiha clan in the Leaf again, and other civilian members agreed. Sume yelled, you all are idiots. He's an S-rank ninja, at the civilian council member's ignorance. Long, spiky, wild brown hair, elongated canine teeth, nails, and pupils that resembled vertical slits were characteristics of the Inuzuka clan head. Telling civilians, she's right. It's impossible to capture him, Kakashi replied. You all are forgetting about his teleportation technique, which is better than my sensei and the 2nd Hokage's. The ability can be used without predefined locations or hand seals. If you're able to locate him, it's impossible to capture him. He can make himself intangible to allow attacks pass through him. Troublesome, according to Shikaku. And do not forget, if he's truly related to Madara, then we can't take the risk. Who knows what his intention toward the Leaf is? Like every other member of his clan, Aburame Shibi wore dark glasses with a single tassel hanging down from one side. He said, I'm agreeing with Shikaku. Sans logic. We can't take the risk which will put our village in danger. He had a mustache and short black hair that was extremely spiky. Then put him in the bingo book with flee on sight order, Danzo recommended. The majority of the council members approved of him. The plan was excellent. Inoichi expressed his opinion, saying, to think he is only 16 and already an S-rank ninja. The statement, he's really powerful ninja, came from Choza. Shikaku said, and he will become more powerful in future, to which both of his friends nodded, similar to Uchiha Itachi. Hiruzen declared, meeting is over. You all are dismissed. The Hokage is approached by Kakashi. Hokage. Sama, I want to talk to you alone, he replied. Third Hokage nodded after noticing the gravity in his voice. End of flashback. Ryu had whispered something in his ear, and Kakashi had told him about it. Hiruzen believed that a particular snake was preparing to attack the leaf during the promotion exam with the assistance of the leaf's allies. The message is encoded. At the time of the Chunin exams, Orochimaru intends to launch an attack on the leaf with the assistance of our allies, the Hidden Sand Village. In order to conform it, he had told Jiraiya, his student, about it. The voice of Kakashi interrupted his train of thought. With his eye unwavering, Kakashi asked, if you truly feel that they aren't ready, why don't you test them for yourself? Kakashi had just made them all nervous. If Iruka had previously captured their interest. Before, the Chunin exams required a minimum mission count of 8 and the approval of the Junin sensei. There was no protest. Although they had previously heard criticism of the Junin's choices, they had never witnessed a Junin resist. The majority of the hushed murmurs that filled the room were wagers on the debate's likely winner. Though a little pale, Iruka found Kakashi's challenge intriguing. What exactly do you mean by that? Kakashi grimaced, but he didn't hesitate to explain his thoughts. It's actually pretty straightforward. You think up a test of a shinobi skill that you remember them either excelling or failing at that. If they pass, then you will allow them to continue on to the Chunin exams. If they fail your test, then they won't be allowed to enter. The majority of them were now completely perplexed as the murmuring intensified. But Iruka knew what Kakashi was talking about. He glared at Kakashi and said, I see. So you want me to prove that they are ready to take the exams? What if I give them a test that I know that they'll fail at? Kakashi let out a sigh. Then I guess they'll be pushed to their limits, which is what they need to understand if they want to survive in the shinobi world. Iruka frowned once more. He had already decided on a course of action and knew he would accept. Sakura was the weakest link on Team 7, he discovered, but Naruto was the wild card. If they really wanted to make it through the second test, they would need him. Since he was aware that Naruto could blindside a Chunin, he intended to test Naruto in his weakest area, his mind. He was completely unaware of what he was getting himself into. Iruka disregarded the other Chunins as they whispered, Okay Kakashi, I accept. He gazed at Kakashi, whose face had remained the same since they had started conversing, or, more likely, quarreling. Kakashi believed that his team needed the test because the hardship and real-world experience would humble them and help them grow. Except for Naruto, they would all perish if they weren't severely beaten out of their current state. Additionally, he reasoned that since it was their former sensei, a lesser test wouldn't harm their chances. What might go wrong? He pondered. Naruto will be selected by Iruka to take the test. Naruto turned to see a suspicious looking rock while he was strolling slowly and munching bread. He was aware that the so-called rock was a fake without having to think about it. No rock could walk, and no rock was square unless it was made by someone. Furthermore, it wasn't even constructed from a genuine rock. Knowing exactly who it was, or who they were, he let out a sigh. He devoured the last of the bread, disappeared, and was replaced by a shadow clone. The phony rock followed the clone as it kept walking. After landing behind the rock, the real Naruto removed his disguise. He nearly chuckled when the three kids wearing the rock disguise kept following his clone without realizing that. They only turned to see the rock costume on the hand of the person they were currently stalking after the blonde purposefully coughed to get their attention and a gusty wind blew their hair. They appeared embarrassed at being discovered, and their eyes were bugged out as they frantically looked for their disguise. They saw another Naruto when they turned around. They looked back and forth between each other in confusion. There was a poof as the clone left. Ha ha ha, boss, long time no sees. Konohamaru furtively scratched his head, aware that they had been discovered. Huh. And Naruto observed with amusement as the kids made a feeble effort to distract him. Nothing, gotta go. Bye. After turning and running, the three kids ran into someone who had just appeared out of nowhere. When the third Hokage's grandson saw the hidden stone village forehead protector on the masked ninja's forehead, he backed away and said, Hey, what's the big deal? Watch out where you're going, Ing. The man grabbed the kids and threatened them with kunai before he could scream. The children were appalled. How easy it is to slip into this village unnoticed. Boy, I want you to give message to your Hokage that I hold his grandson a hostage. Genin, the blonde, blinked. Based on his chakra signature, he was already aware that Iruka was the one pursuing him. He simply questioned why he had pulled such a stunt. He was unaware of the reason behind Iruka's disguise as a stone nin. He couldn't possibly be a spy. There was no guts in him. And he was behaving terribly. He should not have announced his presence to Naruto and should have waited until he was gone if he truly wanted a hostage. Prior to sending a note to Hokage himself, he ought to have left the leaf. That was a foolish move. Unless his calendar was malfunctioning, it wasn't even April yet, so he was wondering if today was April Fool's Day. Naruto just stared at Iruka as though he had gone insane, unwilling to deal with whatever strangeness he had decided to pull. "Intruder," he yelled, using chakra to make his voice louder. Iruka's eyes widened when the shout reverberated throughout the area because he hadn't anticipated the blonde's reaction. A squad of Anbu showed up a few seconds after the shout. They discovered a ninja from the enemy village with 2 leaf children on his hold, and one of them was also carrying a kunai. One of them was identified as the grandson of the 3rd Hokage. Iruka was dealt with before he could comment on his purported role of testing the Chunin candidate. The kids sobbed in terror as they ran to Naruto. Naruto cheerfully waved to his former sensei, who was now being dragged by Anbu and paralyzed by the seal. Bye. All of the older ninjas watched the entire scene from Hokage's crystal ball inside his office. When they saw Iruka's state, they started to perspire. Hiruzen examined the sensei of teams 7, 8, and 10. "You can tell your student that they all are entering in the Chunin exam," he stated. They all gave a nod, then vanished using the body flicker jutsu. Hiruzen returned his attention to the crystal ball. Alright, that type of outcome was not anticipated for him. He had anticipated a fight, but this was more than he could have imagined. He told the remaining ninjas in the office, "Please, someone go to Anbu headquarters and tell them, Iruka is innocent. It was just a test." Danzo made his way to his office through the Hidden Leaf's hidden root base. Years ago, the 3rd Hokage had ordered Root to be disbanded because of the severe training it put aspiring shinobi through. Naturally, Danzo was not obligated to disband Root just because the Hiruzen told him to. The organization had too many advantages to be dismantled and dispersed entirely because they were hidden in the shadows. As head of Root, Danzo was responsible for handling the more covert, underground problems that threatened the Leaf, both domestically and internationally, while the Hokage handled publicity and more obvious issues like border disputes, economic hardships, and strength demonstrations. The actual base had a rather Spartan layout. Members were either waiting for mission updates or training in the dimly lit hallways that led to different rooms throughout the complex. Danzo provided his shinobi with an environment that was highly effective in producing emotionless tools that would gladly sacrifice themselves for the benefit of the Leaf. Danzo believed that hatred, suffering, and war were caused by emotions. Thus, eliminating them would result in less suffering, hatred, and conflict. Although it wasn't very significant, the majority of people, for whatever reason, did not understand the reasoning behind his concepts. Danzo was satisfied because Root performed its job well despite its diminutive size. Danzo arrived at his wooden office door, sat down in a chair behind his metal desk, and opened it. He looked at entry number 399 in the most recent edition of the bingo book. Who would have guessed that the last Academy dead, Uzumaki Naruto, would appear in the bingo book? He believed it was fortunate that I had prevented Homura and Kaharu from making this announcement in the council room. He isn't entirely worthless, at least, as I considered him. According to the bingo book, he is easily on par with Chuunin. I'll send my best Root Anbu to learn more about this unidentified Uchiha boy. Is he, however, actually related to Madara? Who is the masked man I met prior to the Uchiha clan massacre, if he is? When Konohamaru screamed and fled from an enraged Sakura, Naruto arched an eyebrow. He pondered what the child had said or done to cause her to become so enraged. The two were being followed by Moegi and Udon. He shrugged and walked on, but stopped when he sensed a demonic chakra close by. As he concentrated on the tree close to the Hokage's grandson, he failed to notice that Konohamaru had bumped into a ninja wearing a sand forehead protector. He or she seemed to sense that someone was observing him, and he or she could feel that the person's eyes were fixed on him. He heard the brown-haired boy scream as the strange black-clad ninja handled him, breaking the silence. "Let me go," the little boy cried as he was hoisted roughly by the man he had bumped into. "How dare you bump me, little brat, I'll teach you a lesson." "Please, just give him back," Sakura begged, her concern for Konohamaru. She didn't want the child beaten, even though she didn't like him. Furthermore, if she allowed the third's grandson to be beaten in front of her without offering assistance, she would be in serious trouble. Moegi yelled, "Yeah, Let Konohamaru go. Udon vigorously nodded next to her, but the ninja merely sneered. Naruto's voice interrupted. Wow, Konohamaru, 2 kidnappings in 2 days? That must be a record for you. He appeared to find the scene amusing. The younger boy exclaimed, Boss, with relief. You want him? Asked the Sand.Nin. His teammate, a blonde kunoichi, scowled and said, Kankuro, stop it. Just give him back. We don't want any trouble, but he chose to ignore her. Nope. Naruto's statement crushed Konohamaru's hopes. He was deceived. Despite Sakura's snort, he said, but since I'm kind, I'll give you information that the last time someone kidnapped the boy in your hold, the ninja was brought down to be interrogated by Anbu. After a brief moment of hesitation, the ninja turned to face him. You're lying. I'm not. Unless you want a war breaks out between the leaf and sand, you should let the third's grandson go. Kankuro dropped the boy in shock upon learning that he was the grandson of the third Hokage. The mission was nearly ruined by him. They were unable to be apprehended prior to even taking the goddamn Chuunin exams. Konohamaru was dropped on his ass and rubbed his butt. Ouch, he got up, gave the bully a fierce look, and kicked his leg as hard as he could to make the man scream. The young child remained silent and fled behind Naruto to hide from the snarling man. The sand ninja looked up at the source of the flying rock, a younger black-haired shinobi with a smug grin on his face, as it was suddenly thrown directly into his head. Late timing, Naruto said to himself. When Sakura saw that Sasuke-kun had saved her, she cheered. Even the blonde sand kunoichi checked him out, and Moegi was swayed by his charm. Konohamaru muttered behind him, I would be a cool appearance if only he didn't have the wrong timing, and the blonde grinned in agreement. A voice from the tree that Naruto had been watching said, Kankuro, you're shaming our village, and stopped the man with the painted face in his tracks. Kankuro stammered, Gee. Gaara, as he noticed a shorter, red-haired boy with panda eyes staring at him grimly. Standing upside down on the tree branch was the red-headed Sand.Nin. He returned to the ground and said, Even if you're my older brother, I won't hesitate to kill you. As the lone female attempted to ease the tension between the two brothers, Naruto glanced back and forth between them. Are they brothers, really? He pondered. He gazed first at Gaara and then at Kankuro. I don't think they're one. Perhaps due to the face paint, even though the red head resembles a panda. He recognized the demonic chakra as he gazed at Gaara. The one-tails Jinchuriki. He grinned. Tanuki. As soon as they heard the name, the 3 sands whipped their heads in the direction of the blonde. When they saw the smirking face of the blonde ninja, they believed they were hearing things. Naruto laughed. He glanced at Gaara and said, I never thought that I'd find another Jinchuriki here in all of places. Perhaps this exam won't be such a waste after all. Jinchuriki. Another thought, unsure of its meaning. The eyes of Gaara narrowed. Who are you? How is he aware of that? His gaze was fixed on the blonde boy, and he brushed others aside. Naruto bowed mockingly and said, Uzumaki Naruto. He said the final one in a whisper so that only Gaara could hear it. Nice to meet you, Tanuki. To the astonishment of his siblings, Gaara's normally unflappable eyes widened in shock as he saw Naruto laugh before turning into 100 black butterflies. Awesome. Every child thought. Incredulous, Kankuro exclaimed, Who is he? The pink-haired girl shrugged and left her spot, not caring that there were 3 sand ninjas in the leaf because she was already aware of the impending Chuunin exams. That's one question we're also trying to figure out, she said. Before deciding to follow the girl with the pink hair, the 3 kids anxiously glanced around. She was a far better choice than that crazy redhead. In anticipation of their sensei, who had shattered his own tardiness record, Team 7 was dispersed throughout their meeting bridge. While Naruto sat quietly meditating, Sakura attempted to speak with Sasuke, who was deliberately ignoring her. A puff of smoke abruptly cut off the pink-haired girl's one-sided conversation. Sakura screamed for what might have been the 1000th time, nearly breaking the eardrums of her crush. You're late. Kakashi offered one of his typical justifications as Sasuke was massaging his ear in an attempt to restore his hearing. They all saw that Naruto remained in his position. Sakura approached him, preparing to strike him, but she realized he wasn't the Naruto she knew. She decided to scream instead. She prodded him after failing to elicit a response. Naruto removed his earplugs and opened his eyes. Did you say something, Haruno? Sakura's face flushed slightly. She left with a stomp. Where could Sasuke purchase a pair of earplugs for himself? Kakashi leapt to his knees. He handed each of them a form and said, This is sudden, but I've nominated you guys for the Chunin selection exams. Here are your applications. Sakura was still furious and was yelling about having to wait so long for a piece of paper when he proofed away once more. Though this is just a nomination. Whether to take the exam is up to each of you. Those who wish to take it should sign these papers and turn them in at room 301 by 4 p.m. 3 days later. That is all. In front of the academy gate, Naruto emerged from a swarm of black butterflies. He approached Sakura and Sasuke, who were standing off to the side. Ready? He inquired. Sakura appeared undecided before nodding, but Sasuke nodded. Sakura's expression of uncertainty caused both of the boys' eyes to narrow. Naruto and Sasuke exchanged glances as Sasuke turned and his teammates stepped in behind him, Sakura on his left and Naruto on his right, as they entered the academy. Naruto looked around the academy at everyone. He thought, there are a lot of contestants here. As his team reached the top of the stairs they had been ascending, he glanced up and saw the crowd gathered in front of room 301. He squinted his eyes. The fact that they were only on the second floor and the shoddy cover up genjutsu caught his attention. At the front of the group, he heard someone being knocked down. He could see the victim of the impact as the crowd appeared to thin out. The boy's green jumpsuit was nearly as noticeable as the old orange one his copy wore. The Leaf's headband and orange leg warmers were wrapped in a red cloth belt around his waist. He knew who the boy was. Mini. Guy, aka Rock Lee. Lee had big round black eyes with noticeable lower lashes and thick eyebrows. Like his sensei, he wore his hair in a shiny bowl cut. In front of the disguised room stood the two individuals who had attacked the boy in the green outfit. Their hair was both brown. His hung loosely around his face, framing his black eyes, in the one on the left. He wore blue shinobi sandals, plain white pants, and a vest over his shirt. On his back was a backpack as well. Similar to Naruto. The person on the right had spiky hair that framed his own black eyes and the bandages covering his face. The handles of large swords protruded from behind each shoulder. In addition, he wore blue shinobi sandals and white pants. The person with the spiky hair said, "Hey, you plan to take the Chunin exam with that?" The straight-haired one said, "You should quit now," as the two sneered down at the boy in the green outfit. "You're a just little kid." He said, yeah, and his partner agreed. A brown-haired girl said, "Please, let us through," and started to move forward. She wore dark green pants that tapered at the end and a pink shirt without sleeves in the Chinese style. She wore her hair in traditional Chinese buns on either side of her head, with short fringe bangs cascading over her forehead protector. With a crash, she fell to the ground after being struck in the head by the spiky-haired one. "Horrible," muttered one of the spectators. "What did you say?" The spiky-haired man asked menacingly, glancing at the bystander who had spoken incredulously. The straight-haired man then pointed to himself and his apparent comrade and said, "Listen, this is our kindness. The Chunin exam isn't easy. Even we have failed it 3 straight times. Those that take this exam and end up quitting as shinobis, those that die during the exam, we've seen it all." The man with the spiky hair moved forward. The Chunins often become captains of military teams. The failure of a mission. The death of comrade. That's all the captain's responsibility, he passionately stated. Yet, kids like you think you can pass. Where he had left off, his partner continued, "We're thinning out those that will fail anyway. What's wrong with that?" They were making people uneasy with their impassioned speech. They were afraid of being noticed, so none of them wanted to move too much. As he gazed at the two, Sasuke's voice broke the stillness. "I agree." He looked at them and said, "But you will let me pass through and also remove this surrounding created with genjutsu. I'm going to 3rd floor," which made the crowd start muttering to themselves. "What's that guy talking about? I don't know." The straight-haired individual said, "Ah, so you noticed," as the room sign abruptly twisted and the actual number 201 became visible. "Not really," said Sasuke, shrugging his shoulders. He glanced at Sakura. "Sakura, you must have noticed first, right?" In response, Sakura said, "Huh? Your genjutsu knowledge and analytical skills are the best on our team," Sasuke remarked, giving Sakura more confidence. After raising an eyebrow in response to his teammate's statement, Naruto shook his head. Azumo and Katetsu, also known as immortal Chunins, are the two who are always stuck on guard duty. He reasoned that they were using transformation jutsu to eliminate weak genins from the test. Sakura remarked, "Of course, I noticed while ago." Her lifeless eyes were suddenly blazing with brightness. "Because this is the 2nd floor." As he turned his foot to strike Sasuke, the spiky-haired one shifted. Not bad, but all you did was see through it, he replied. When he saw Mini Guy's suddenly move, Naruto remained motionless, his gaze focused on the crowd and the encounter. Before he materialized between Sasuke and the strange boy's kick, his wound vanished, and he held them both in his hands. A tiny narrowing of Naruto's eyes occurred. A master of taijutsu, he believed. It's interesting, I'd like to fight him. Sakura's eyes were wide as she watched the scene. He's quick. Both kicks were visible to him, and he managed to slide between them. This is. She pondered. He is a totally different person than the one who was being trolled earlier. His hand catching my kick. Sasuke pondered. Then he became aware of the boy's hand. This chakra in his arms. What is it? As he released the two kicks, the boy sighed. Hey, came a man's voice. Naruto looked at the new man. His hair fell to the middle of his back, and he wore dark brown shorts and a khaki shirt to match. The leaf symbol was also displayed on the forehead protector that was wrapped around his forehead. He had white eyes. The man's voice did sound a little icy to him. What happened to the plan? Asked he. You're the one who said we shouldn't draw attention to ourselves. Naruto had to suppress his laughter when the green-clad boy blushed and turned to face Sakura. The teammate of the boy shook her head. Oh no, she exclaimed. The Hyuga man beside her started to perspire. Huh, Sasuke thought. Their wounds have healed. With a slight smile, the green-clad boy approached Sakura and said, Hi, my name is Rock Lee. So yours is Sakura, he blushed. Suddenly, Naruto felt uneasy about this. In a, okay, gesture, the boy raised his hand and stuck his thumb up. He had gleaming white teeth. He exclaimed, Let's go out together, I'll protect you, till I die. After a moment of staring at him, Sakura said, No way. You're lame, in a deadpan tone that made Lee sag in despair. The Hyuga boy turned to Sasuke and exclaimed, Hey, you, what's your name? Sasuke scoffed as he glanced at the boy. If you want to learn someone's name, you should give your own first. The boy from Hyuga scowled. Without giving anyone a chance to respond, he asked, You're a rookie, right? How old are you? Once more, Sasuke scoffed. As he put it, I don't have to answer you. The Hyuga and Sasuke turned away from one another and started to leave. Sasuke was grinning broadly, as though he was ecstatic to be here. Naruto followed him after shaking his head. Sakura quickly gestured for her teammates to move after glancing at them both because she wanted to avoid that eyebrow freak. As they made their way toward the stairs down the hallway, they both came together. Sasuke couldn't help but think of all the talented genins he had already encountered as they made their way down the hall. It looks like things will be interesting with all these talented opponents. Before long, they heard a voice behind them. You, with the dark eyes, hold on. On a platform above them, the three of them turned to see the genins in the green leotard behind them. Sakura winced. Sasuke stayed apathetic, and Naruto arched an eyebrow. What? Asked Sasuke. With a resolute expression, the boy asked, Would you fight me, right here, right now? Sasuke questioned, A fight? Here and now? Yes, the boy replied, as he jumped over the banister and landed about a dozen feet from them. My name is Rock Lee. When you want to learn a person's name, you give your own first, right? Uchiha Sasuke. Now intrigued, Sasuke said, So you know me? Lee declared, I want to fight you, adopting a defensive posture. He turned to Sakura, who was starting to panic and wince in terror, and said, I want to test just how far my techniques will go against a prodigy of a genius ninja clan. He flushed. Plus. Sakura.san, love. EU. Was Sakura's breaking point as she started to lose her mind. Those eyebrows. Just, EU. Despite her clear dislike, Lee told her, You are an angel. Sakura yelled, Just. No, EU. Stay away, at the boy with the bushy eyes. Lee, who was devastated by her rejection, remarked, You know, you don't have to be so negative. Sasuke gave Lee a sneer. Challenging me, knowing the Uchiha name. You're a fool. You will learn what that name means, bushy brows. Great. Lee grinned and assumed the strong fist position. At long last, Guy. Sensei. I'll prove myself. I don't want to be here wasting time. Naruto, who was aware of Guy's speed, reasoned that Sasuke would lose anyhow. One of the Sharingan's shortcomings was its speed. The Sharingan could see or anticipate an attack by tracking swiftly moving objects. The user still needed to be able to react quickly, though. He walked back toward the exam room after turning around. Naruto went to room 301, the actual exam room. When he noticed Kakashi reading an orange book, he arched an eyebrow, saying, "Hello, Kakashi. Sensei." Kakashi noticed Naruto by himself. Confused, he inquired, "Where is the rest of the team?" When asked, "They're busy with Guy and his mini clone," Naruto replied. "Before coming here, he had sensed Maida Guy. I feel sorry for them." Kakashi nodded, knowing that seeing Guy and his clone would result in horrible sunsets. They quickly came across Sakura and Sasuke. They mumbled something along the lines of, "Horrible genjutsu," with a horrified expression, and wasty eyebrows. Kakashi's perspiration fell. He thought, "Look Guy, look what you and your student did to my students." After noticing Sasuke's filthy attire, Naruto grinned and remarked, "So, you just got your ass kicked." As Sakura put it, "Naruto, you." She started to reprimand Naruto, but Kakashi interrupted. "Ah, I'm glad to see you made it as well, Sakura," Kakashi remarked idly as he read Icha Paradise Volume, his small orange book. 3. You can now officially register for the Chunin exams. Sakura was perplexed. "What do you mean? Only teams of 3 may take this exam," Kakashi stated, looking up from his book. "But you said it was up to us whether or not we wanted to take it or not," Sakura uttered, her confusion growing in the moment. "Yes, I did," replied Kakashi. Uncertain, Sakura said, You lied?" "Not exactly," Naruto replied. "It was your choice whether you wanted to take the exam or not, but he didn't want either me or Sasuke forcing you to take the exam." "Exactly," replied Kakashi. "Even if you two wouldn't force her into taking the exam, she would have felt as if she was holding you two back and thus would have felt obligated to take the exam to keep from doing so." Sakura accepted this explanation with a nod. "So, if only Naruto and Sasuke came, then what would have happened?" she inquired. "I would have prohibited them from taking the exams and not allowed them entry into the next room," Kakashi stated. He grinned, but you could only see it from the curve of his only eye. "But, each of you came here of your own free will. Well done. I am proud to have each of you on my team." He stepped aside to let them in. Naruto said, "All right, let's go." As they walked into the room and closed the door behind them, Kakashi watched. The cave was unidentified. The masked figure inside the cave was the same one who attacked the Hidden Leaf village 12 years prior with the 9 tails. He wore a new orange mask with a spiral pattern that only revealed his right eye in place of the yellow orange one he had worn during the 9 tails attack. He was reading the most recent addition to the bingo book. "Madara's grandson," he said, glancing at Ryu's photo. As they rose from the ground, Zetsu's black halves asked, "Tobi, why did you call us here?" Tobi glanced in Zetsu's direction. At his feet, he tossed the bingo book. "Do you know anything about it?" Zetsu took the book in his hands. The black Zetsu remarked, Madara's grandson. "Well, Madara had a daughter," the white Zetsu said. "He was the older of the two of them." "What?" Tobi yelled. His eyes widened in shock behind his mask. "That old Madara had a child, a daughter. What happened to her?" The white Zetsu remarked, "I don't know. Madara never told me anything about her. It was an outright lie." Tobi gave a headshake. He questioned white Zetsu, "So there is possibility the boy could be Madara's grandson?" "Yes," said the white Zetsu. Tobi approached Zetsu and picked up the book. He reread the book. "The boy clearly has Mangekyo Sharingan if he can use Kamui like me. It's only technique that allows the user to achieve two very distinct, yet closely associated feats, teleportation and intangibility," he stated. He looked at Zetsu and said, "He's very talented." He let out a childish laugh and vanished into a swirling vortex. "Find everything about him. If I play my cards right, he will be a valuable asset in the future. Just I need to find a way to manipulate him like Nagato. Well, see ya, bye. Tobi is good boy." The black Zetsu grinned and remarked, "You have no idea what you're getting yourself into, Tobi. The players have already chosen before the game has started, and you are not player here. You are a card just like Nagato." All of the genins turned and started glaring at Team 7 as soon as they walked into the exam room. Numerous genins teams, many of whom were several years older than the trio, started to leak information about their intentions to kill. Sakura paled and started to tremble because, aside from Zabuza during the battle on the bridge, she had little experience with killing intent. Sasuke appeared a little uneasy, but he quickly recovered his Uchiha confidence. Ignoring their feeble intent to kill, Naruto directed his own killing intent in their direction. When a few genins started to turn away in terror, he grinned. It was almost time for the three of them to find a seat. Behind them there was a loud squeal. Ino leapt on top of Sasuke and put her legs around his waist and her arms around his neck, saying, "Sasuke-kun, I missed you so much, did you miss me too?" Sakura's forehead was covered in tick marks. She yelled, "Get the hell off him, Ino.pig." "Troublesome women," muttered Shikamaru. At the slothful genin, Naruto rolled his eyes. Kiba exclaimed, "Yahoo found you," as he and Team 8 became the youngest group in the room, joining the other 6 rookies. "Well, everyone is here." While Shino merely acknowledged their presence with a push of his glasses, Hinata greeted everyone. With a whine, Shikamaru glanced around the room behind Team 8 and said, "Geez, you guys too?" Kiba exclaimed, the rookie 9 of the Hidden Leaf, with excitement, quickly clarifying his meaning after noticing the perplexed expressions. "The first times in years since rookies have attended the Chunin exams and we are the ones to do it. Hoo boy. This is going one hell of a showdown." Hinata soothed him by placing a hand on his shoulder. The words, "You sure seem confident, Kiba," were spoken by Sasuke. At last, he had removed Ino from his back. Kiba laughed. He exuded confidence as he declared, "We won't lose to the likes of you. We did a lot of training." Naruto was aware that his nervousness was being concealed. He glanced at a gray-haired genin the Leaf who was approaching as he turned away from the group. The man wore round glasses on his nose and had small black eyes. He was dressed in a dark purple shirt, a white undershirt, and a white obi that was worn at a slight angle around his waist. In addition, he had a shuriken holster on his left hip and dark purple pants. The silver-haired genin approached the group, attracting everyone's attention and saying, "All of you be quiet." As though he hadn't heard Kiba's booming statement, he questioned, "You guys are rookies just from the academy, right?" Screaming like schoolgirls, "This isn't a picnic." Angry at the man's self-evident comments, Kiba asks, "Who do you think you are?" "My name is Yakushi Kabuto and you're so noisy. Take a look around you," said the man. Almost everyone in the room was glaring at them, and Kiba gasped as he looked around. The gray-haired boy then informed them that it was his 7th attempt at a chunin and provided them with details about the hidden villages and the number of teams they sent to the Leaf. "As your senior, you shouldn't act as if the exam was a picnic. These guys are the best of the best genin teams from the hidden villages which sent their representatives here," he said. He proudly displayed his nin.info cards to them. "Fascinating, he has all the makings of a great spy." Naruto gave Kabuto a narrowed look. Since the man was effectively concealing his chakra, he could tell that he possessed a great deal of chakra level and control. Or he's a spy already. Sasuke narrowed his eyes and gave Kabuto a suspicious look. "What about the foreign ninja though?" he asked. I don't have info of most of them, only the ones that might be a threat. I use my connection outside the Leaf to acquire info about them and I include rumors too. So how is it? Do you want to know about someone? Perhaps I have info about them," replied Kabuto. After a moment of silence, Sasuke raised his head, the red-haired ninja from Sand. "Do you know his name? I think it was Gaara." Kabuto shuffled his nin cards and nodded. "Found it? Sabaku no Gaara. Many C-rank missions and even several B and A-rank ones." He began to whistle. Rumors said that he didn't even have a scratch on him after doing his missions. "That's one hell of interesting guy if you ask me. Better stay away from him. Any others?" "Hyuga Neji, Rock Lee and," Sasuke said, glancing over his shoulder at his blonde teammate, Uzumaki Naruto. Hyuga Neji and Rock Lee are teammates under Maeda Guy with another genin named Tenten. Lots of D-rank missions, some C-rank missions. Both of them excel in taijutsu. Hyuga Neji comes from the Hyuga clan, branch member. Rock Lee is apprentice under his own Junin instructor, Maeda Guy, the taijutsu specialist. He has excellent taijutsu for a ninja his age, but according to rumors he is unable to use chakra in the form of ninjutsu or genjutsu. He took the next card. And the last one, Uzumaki Naruto. He is. What? Kabuto and the rookies observed as a senbon pinned the nin info card, which held Naruto's information, to the wall behind them. The rookies were taken aback because none of them had detected the senbon. They were even more taken aback when the card ignited and turned to dust, which the wind blew away. Sasuke thought, "Fire chakra." Naruto stated, "I want to keep my information secret for the time being." He twirled another senbon in his left hand's fingers and approached them with a faint smile. When Temari remarked, "He looks familiar," her brother turned to face her. To which Kankuro replied, "What do you mean? I've seen his picture somewhere, but I can't remember it where," she said, keeping her gaze fixed on the blonde. In the meantime, Gaara's smile frightened everyone around him as he said, "Mother wants his blood." Looking at Naruto, Neji thought, "He sure looks strong." Naruto could feel an attack coming toward him. Kabuto also sensed the impending attack, so it wasn't just him. When they turned around, a dark-haired, spiky sound nin leapt into the air using one of the benches and threw a few kunais at them, which they were able to easily avoid. A second sound nin suddenly materialized in front of Kabuto, who had a strange device on his left arm and his face entirely covered in gauze, save for his left eye. Naruto believed that Kabuto was the target of the sound team's attack. He watched curiously as the older boy easily avoided the sound. Mummy. Nin's left arm swinging in Kabuto's face. Naruto narrowed his eyes as he sensed a disturbance in the air between Kabuto and the sound. Mummy. Nin. While everyone else was in awe of Kabuto's quick reflexes for avoiding the attack, he questioned why there was such a rift between the two ninjas. When he noticed that Kabuto's glasses had shattered and dropped to the floor, his eyes grew wide. After briefly narrowing his eyes even more, Naruto smoothed his face. The sound. Genin, who had swung his arm at Kabuto, caught his attention. He thought, he has a metal gauntlet on his arm and earmuffs on. The air or sound are the only things that can physically strike but are invisible. A rough sounding voice said, "Alright, that's enough. Quiet down, you little bastards." At the front of the room, a puff of smoke burst forth. It cleared to reveal a tall, scarred man wearing a blue proctor's uniform and a black trench coat, as well as a dozen chunins wearing similar clothes except for the trench coat. The man glared at the sound nins and said, "I'm Morino Ibiki, the proctor for this exam. So long as I'm here, there will be no fighting. Do I make myself clear?" "Sorry, we got too excited," Genin said in an insincere tone. He made no effort to persuade. Ibiki shouted, "Get your seat numbers and shut up," and everyone did as he asked, taking the numbers from his helpers. After tapping the chalkboard in front of the room, he said, "The rules of the exam are as follows, and there will be no questions. Test 1 of the Chuunin exam. Rule 1. Examinees begin with a perfect score of 10 points. 10 points are awarded for the test itself, and 1 point is subtracted from your final score for each question that is answered incorrectly. Rule number 2. The test is a collaborative activity. Each team's passing score is determined by adding the total points earned by all team members. Rule number 3. Every time someone is caught cheating, they will lose 2 points. Rule number 4. Those who fail, along with their teammates, are those who lose all of their exam points or fail to correctly answer any of the questions. I expect nothing but the best from you ninjas trying to become chunins, Ibiki joked. The exam will last 1 hour. Begins. Naruto thought the exam's first section was dull. The first section of the Chuunin exam was designed to assess candidates' capacity for information gathering and decision-making. The second portion of the test was currently being administered in front of the closed gates of Practice Arena 44, also known as the Forest of Death, as the proctor affectionately referred to it. The creepiness of the forest and the exam proctor clearly frightened the majority of Chuunin's hopefuls, as he could see. The proctor for the second test announced, "All right, maggots. This is the place for your second test, Training Area 44, or better known as the Forest of Death." She was tall, strong, and incredibly cruel both in appearance and demeanor. She was a unique Chuunin named Mitarashi Anko. She was resolved to cut the Chuunin hopefuls in half. Her actions didn't bother Naruto, but he did observe Kabuto's covert laughter, which the female grass.nin also shared. She does a great job of hiding her actual strength, huh? She has a cage. Level chakra with ease. He thought, and she seems really interested in Sasuke. He leaned sideways idly to avoid Anko's kunai. She flashed one under his chin and another behind him in a flash. After pushing her kunai away with his finger, Naruto remarked, "Well, why don't you get on with the show? I'm bored already." "Spoil sport," complained Anko. She felt someone behind her creep up on her. To deflect the oncoming attack, she instinctively triggered the concealed kunai mechanism in her sleeves, which sprang a kunai in her hands. "Here's your kunai." The woman who was holding her kunai by that long tongue spoke, and Anko heard it. "Why? Thank you," she said with a semblance of joy as she pressed her kunai a bit harder on the grass. Nin's repulsively long tongue. She was feeling uneasy about the grass kunoichi, but she wasn't sure why. For now, she disregarded it. "But you know, don't sneak up behind me unless you want to die." The grass kunoichi offered the kunai to Anko and apologized, saying, "Your kunai grazed my hair. I got excited, but I wanted to give it back." Without flinching at the big tongue, Anko snatched it from her. She put the kunai in her pocket and went back to facing the genins. Okay, your task is to enter this area and get another scroll from others. Remember, to pass you must complete this test with both scrolls, heaven and earth, with your teammates alive. And within 5 days, you have to show up at the central station that is your finishing line, so to speak. Before you enter you will sign special forms that my colleagues are giving you, she continued. Why? Inquired a few genins. Why? To state that the Leaf or I aren't responsible for your death or injury that will surely occur in this test. Anko giggled. Genin said, and many others went pale. Although Sakura's anxiety increased as well, she managed to maintain her posture comparatively well. Sasuke and Naruto were supposed to protect her. In front of one of Training Field 44's gates, Team 7 was standing by. When a red signal flare appeared in the sky, a Leaf shinobi opened the gate. After they ran off, the shinobi said, "Good luck," and shut the door once more. Naruto thought, what a letdown. I thought we would have encountered some challenge by now, but all we encountered was a group of weak rain ninja that fled when things got tough. Since nothing significant had happened in the 3 hours since they had entered the forest, he was becoming genuinely bored. The blonde told his teammates, "I'm going to scout the area," and left before they could respond. Sakura turned to face her crush and asked, "What do you think happened to him after graduation?" The answer was, "I don't know, Sasuke." He reflected on Naruto's behavior prior to the graduation exam. Then he sensed something. "Sakura, move out of the way." Immediately after both leave, Nins leapt from the path. A windstorm of some kind blew straight through their location. Sasuke got to his feet and began scanning the area for the attacker. Naruto turned to face the enormous snake that had attempted to devour him. The white flames were all over it. A couple of seconds later, the snake died. Snake. Naruto reasoned that it must have been Orochimaru who had been pursuing us. Daiki, he exclaimed as the white, black man, made creature emerged from the earth. Get ready. It's time to suit up. After giving a nod, Daiki transformed into his semi-liquid state and began encircling Naruto. The odd grass kunoichi produced a scroll from her pouch and displayed it to Sakura and Sasuke. When she was done, the kunoichi brought the scroll to her mouth and she pushed it down her gullet in front of them. You guys want this, right? An earth scroll since you have the heaven scroll. The two leaf genins became pale and appeared as though they were about to throw up. I find that repulsive, Sasuke thought. The woman concluded by releasing a powerful killing intent. Now we can fight for these scrolls, with our lives on the line, she said. As pictures of their deaths at the hands of the grass nin flashed through their minds, Sakura and Sasuke both gasped and collapsed to their knees, trembling and gasping for air. They witnessed horrific deaths, being ruthlessly torn apart, and being gutted by a long sword. Before they vanished, the images of death persisted for a few seconds. However, the sensation persisted, ensnaring their hearts and immobilizing them. This, Sasuke thought, is not genjutsu. Her desire to kill is so strong that it displayed pictures of my demise. Not even from that period with Zabuza have I ever experienced anything like this. Sakura was even worse than he was, shivering uncontrollably and shedding tears as he turned to face her. The woman scowled and remarked, well, it seems neither of you can move, a pity. I expected a challenge. She took out 2 kunai and tossed them lazily at the 2 prone genins, saying, I guess I'll just get rid of you now. Hurry up. I must relocate. Sasuke found it difficult to move the hand that was holding his kunai. Come on, move. Go. He was able to stab himself in the leg at the last second. He sprang into action, snatched Sakura, and ran off. The odd kunoichi licked her lips and said, I see, so the prey managed to use pain to get rid of his fear. It seems the prey might be more interesting than first glance may seem. When Sasuke thought they were safely out of sight, he stopped behind a tree. With a wince, he knelt on the branch and pulled the kunai from his leg. His Sharingan eyes started to spin wildly, searching for the terrifying woman wherever she might be. Sakura inspected the wound and remarked, Sasuke-kun, your leg looks pretty bad, la. As he looked around for the woman, Sasuke swiftly put his hand over her mouth. Sakura thought, I've never seen him this scared before. At that moment, she saw the big snake hovering over them, preparing to eat the two. Because of the hand covering her mouth, she was unable to warn Sasuke. She forced the hand back and at last was able to pull away. Sasuke-kun, there's a snake above you. Before leaping off the branch as the snake smashed it, the boy with the raven hair turned and seized Sakura. The snake appeared to follow him as he put Sakura down and leapt away. Oh no, I was so scared, Sasuke thought. That I didn't even realize where I was. For his ignorance, he cursed himself. He took a number of kunai and shuriken and started throwing them at the snake, trying to kill it by hitting its head. The snake hissed and started to fall, which relieved him. He watched in horror as the snake's scales cracked, revealing the woman who had been pursuing him. The grass kunoichi emerged, beaming broadly at the genins. The woman exclaimed, "You two shouldn't relax even for a moment," while grinning ferociously. She started to slither across the tree branch, but was stopped by a strong wind blade severing the branch in front of her, in the presence of a predator. Interesting, a voice above them said. Ryu was standing on a tree branch when the grass.nin and two genins turned to face the voice direction. When the grass kunoichi recognized the individual from the bingo book, she said, well, what are you doing here?" Disgusted, Ryu pretended to be surprised. "Orochimaru, what are you doing here? Don't tell me they've taken the legendary Sannin title from you and demoted you to a mere genin," Ryu said. The familiar name made Sakura pale. Orochimaru, a brilliant shinobi who trained under the third Hokage alongside Jiraiya and Senju Tsunade, was well known to all. A man regarded as the leading authority on ninjutsu, he and his two teammates were known as the legendary Sannin because of their well-known fight against Hanzo of the Salamander. He was also an S-rank missing nin and one of the worst traitors in the Leaf, wanting to conduct cruel experiments on Leaf residents as well as probably many other villages and nations. Orochimaru appeared in front of Ryu and disappeared. He kicked him in the ribs and yelled, "Watch your mouth, brat." To his astonishment, Ryu turned into a murder of crows in front of his eyes. Genjutsu. His gaze expanded. When he heard Ryu's voice, he turned around quickly. Fire release. Phoenix Sage Flower Jutsu. Ryu let loose a flurry of unpredictable fireballs that were nearly impossible to avoid, akin to a swarm of bees. But it wasn't for nothing that Orochimaru was a Sannin. It was a narrow escape from the attack. He was impressed and remarked, "I don't think I've ever seen this jutsu that powerful before." His gaze shifted from Ryu to the ruined tree limbs. "Well, thank you, but you should never take your eyes off your opponent," Ryu said as he abruptly materialized next to Orochimaru, his arms and back blazing with black lightning. He sent the snake Sannin flying backwards with a punch to his stomach. Anko took another bite of the dango stick and sighed in relief. Yum. Nothing beats juice and dango. During the exams, her favorite food tasted 20% better for some reason. Normally, she would have questioned how this could be explained, but she concluded that it had to do with the thoughts of all the genins, who were most likely fighting each other in the mortal wars. "Now, after I finish my meal, I'll go to the tower, I suppose." She finished her dango bite. Because the fast should only take around 24 hours in this program. She flung the empty stick into a tree close by. What must have been close to 30 or 40 sticks now adorned that tree. They were all grouped together to form the leaf symbol. The leaf mark is finished. She hopped to her feet after taking the final sip of her bean soup and throwing the cup in a nearby trash can. A cloud of smoke suddenly materialized in front of her. The woman saw a chunin wearing glasses and wearing a bandana. Like forehead protector. The woman sighed with disgust as he appeared to be concerned about something. She questioned, "What's with the look?" In response, the chunin said, "Big trouble, Anko." "Already? What the hell could the problem be this soon? We've found dead bodies, 3 of them." "Dead bodies?" "Yes, please, it's easier to show, come quickly." As he asked, Anko followed the chunin. In the end, he guided her to a tiny cemetery located outside the leaf. The one with the glasses had told Anko about the dead bodies, and 2 other chunins were already there to inspect them. Anko took a position of thought and placed her index finger beneath her chin. She examined the corpses. Strange. She went to have a better look. Chunin, who had examined the dead bodies, stated, after examining their paper and personal items, they seem to be the hidden grass shinobis who were entered in the exam but, as you can see, to reveal his face to Anko, he rolled the single body over. They have no faces. They're blank if they were melted off. As the chunin's words merged in Anko's mind, her eyes grew wide. It's not to be confused. He owns this jutsu. He is taking this exam, but why? She reflected on her former master, who had deceived both the village and herself. She glanced at the chunin as her head snapped back. "Show me the picture of these 3. The chunin immediately produced them and gave them to Anko, saying, "Oh, yes." When Anko saw the picture of the eerie grass kunoichi she had met at the beginning of the second exam section, she gasped in horror. This face was stolen by him. Thus, at that moment, he has already. She made him clench his fist. This is bad. One chunin asked bewilderedly, Huh. With that, Anko turned to face the leaf.nin. You guys, go report this to Hokage. Sama. Send some Anbu captains to the Forest of Death, she said. I'm going after them right now. After giving a nod, the Chuunin let Anko follow instructions. The woman in question leapt the fence and started to jump from tree to tree in the forest. Her heart was pounding with anger, fear, and anticipation. Sakura and Sasuke watched the fight unfold. Orochimaru emerged, battered, bloodied, and bruised, but he was still very much alive. He looked very different from before because Ryu's attack had torn his fake face. His black hair was waist length, and his skin was very pale. He had a long face with prominent cheekbones, and his eyes were golden with purple markings surrounding them and slits in the pupils. Orochimaru said, "You are good, Ryu, the black dragon," with a spooky smile. Ryu remarked, "And you are a sneaky like a snake." Behind Orochimaru, a second Ryu thrust a black lightning stained hand through his chest. The clone was correct when he said, "Because Ryu, you have already run away from here." His wound oozed mud instead of blood. The snake Sanin revealed a mud clone as Ryu's clone withdrew his hand. Ryu looked at two Team 7 members. He noticed that they were staring at him with jealousy and fear. A word of advice: when you see your opponent much stronger than you or you doesn't have strength to fight with him, run like the wind, said the man. He saw that Sakura was the only one paying close attention. He who fights and runs away may live to fight another day. It's not cowardice, it's a tactical withdrawal. When he was done, Sasuke yelled, "Ryu, fight with me, I want to test my power," and drew out a kunai. Ryu's perspiration fell. I don't believe he understands. He gave Sasuke a look. He paused, pondering, then said, "Gaara." He grinned. "My distant cousin, return later when you're able to fight with." Well done, Naruto. If you know him, two things could occur. Either Gaara will kill him or he will kill himself, and both outcomes are identical. Sasuke yelled, "I don't have that much time," as Sharingan spun quickly in both of his eyes. Ryu gave a headshake. My brilliant plan to avoid Sasuke has been foiled. With his Sharingan eyes fixed on Sasuke, he used Genjutsu on him as Sasuke felt his eyelids begin to sag before he passed out on the ground. Sakura yelled, "Sasuke.kun," as she watched her crush suddenly fall to the ground. When Ryu said, "Take him with you," Sakura gave a terrified nod. He started to spin. His eye was encircled by a vortex of air. He smirked evilly and disappeared. Are both of them truly gone, Kami? Sakura pondered. She searched the area for signs of Ryu and Orochimaru. Since she and Sasuke knew they couldn't fight any of them, she wanted to be sure they were truly gone. They were both monsters. They couldn't compete with them. Now, what should I do? What happened to Sasuke? Sakura thought one of them returned to finish them, and she almost jumped up in terror. She turned around slowly and exhaled a sigh of relief when she recognized Naruto's face. "Thank God, you're back, Naruto." With a, "Okay," Naruto gestured to Sasuke with his thumb. "What happened to him?" "Monsters," uttered Sakura. After he left, she filled him in on everything that had transpired between them. "Wow. Not a single day has completely passed and both of you have already met two S-rank ninjas in the Chunin exam. You two really have a bad luck," said Naruto. He gave Sasuke a look. He channeled chakra in his fingertip and placed it on Sasuke's forehead, saying, "Anyway, Sasuke is fine. It's just a genjutsu." He broke the genjutsu and sent chakra into Sasuke's body. Sasuke opened his eyes and moaned a few seconds later. He said, What happened?" He asked Sakura, "A genjutsu. Ryu used a genjutsu on you," and Sakura replied. "A basic genjutsu, a genjutsu. Ryu can defeat me with just basic genjutsu." Sasuke clenched his fist in anger, mostly directed at himself, thinking, "The power difference between us is too high. At this level, I will never be able to kill Itachi. I require more authority." Naruto remarked, "Whatever, let's just go to the tower." Sakura gave Naruto a perplexed look. She stated, "But we don't have a second scroll." "Yes, we have," said Naruto. Unsealing a scroll from his pouch, he dropped 4 earth and 3 heaven scrolls in front of them. Sakura gaped at the blonde, her jaw drooping so much that she lacked the courage to shut it. 7 more scrolls. In such a short period of time, he has gathered the 7 additional scrolls. Inner Sakura's eyes widened as she took in the scene. As of right now, we have 4 pairs of heaven and earth scrolls. Sasuke gave Naruto a jealous glance. What on earth? I'm not even as strong as Naruto. As she leapt through the forest, Mitarashi Anko muttered curses. She had yet to see her target, and it was already getting dark. As she traveled, Anko said out loud, "It's almost nightfall. I must find him quickly. Once it gets totally dark, I will be at further disadvantage. But why is he at the time like this? What is his purpose?" As she jumped from tree to tree, she shook her head and laughed. Her breath was the only sound she produced with each leap. She continued, jumping silently from branch to branch, saying, "Well, it makes no difference," adding, "If you have come to this village, then we will settle this thing now. You are now the bingo book level S dangerous person. I must stop you even if it costs me my life. And if that's not possible, I must slow you down until the Anbu arrives." Anko paused to catch her breath before leaping to another branch. She put her palm against the tree's bark and closed her eyes slowly as she started to look around. "I learned everything from you. I was one of your men and thus. That's my job," she said. She turned back to see a face emerge from the tree, and a smile came to her lips. When she saw Orochimaru's condition, she almost screamed the last line, "Isn't? Huh? What the hell happened to you?" In addition to a bloody wound on his stomach, he had bruises and blood spots all over his body, including his mouth. Orochimaru said, "Anko-chan," while clutching his burned arm. "You look like a shit. I must congratulate the one who did this to you," Anko grumbled. "Ryu, the black dragon, was a formidable foe," Orochimaru remarked, a little irate. "This is what that S-rank kid did to him. Holy cow," in her mind, Anko screamed. "Sorry, Anko-chan, as you can see, he really did a number on me. Until we meet again," Orochimaru replied. Anko shouted, "Orochimaru!" But her former sensei had already disappeared. She grinned and said, "At least I've seen him hurt badly. If I ever meet that kid, I'm gonna give him one hot kiss of his life for badly hurting that Teme." She hurried to the tower to report this new information to the third Hokage. Team 7 arrived close to the tower. From afar, they could see it. Naruto was looking for something when he abruptly stopped and turned to look around. Sakura took note of that. She was a little alarmed, believing that both shinobi had returned. She asked, "Naruto, what happened?" "I don't know why, but I have this sudden urge to see the protector of the second part of Chunin exams," she replied to Naruto. "Who?" Sakura asked. Naruto responded, "Mitarashi Anko," and he and the other two members began to move toward the tower. Sakura recalled her. "Why do you want to meet that crazy lady?" Naruto said, "I don't know, but I don't mind to meet her again. She's hot," as he cast a sidelong glance at Sasuke. "Am I right, Sasuke?" Sasuke gave Naruto a look. He had no idea how to respond to that query. He gave a head nod. Naruto uttered, My, Sasuke, you proved me wrong. I always thought you were a gay." When Sasuke heard this, he almost collapsed. In his rage, he turned around and glanced at the blonde. He almost yelled at Naruto, "Where the hell did you get this idea?" Sakura shouted, "Hey," in an attempt to protect her beloved Sasuke-kun's honor. Sasuke-kun isn't a gay, I know. Sakura caught Naruto's attention. Haruno, in the academy, Sasuke was a boy who ignored every single one of his fangirls including you and seemed to hate the female race all, he said. From behavior like this, every straight man in my place would have thought he was a gay. Sasuke's eye was twitching in frustration from the sidelines. He thought, he's talking like I'm not even here. He had a reputation to maintain, so he refrained from yelling at his blonde teammates. Sakura began to close her eyes. Sasu. But from his answer, I can tell you that he's not a gay, Naruto replied. Sakura let out a sigh of relief. Thank God. When Naruto said, but you should be worried now, he grinned. He was going to like it, he said. He gestured to her chest and said, I think he likes more mature bodies. And you're lacking in that department. When Sakura heard that, her entire world broke like a piece of glass. Even inner Sakura remained silent as she fell into a depression. After waking up to Sasuke, Naruto abruptly dodged the blow that Sasuke had thrown at him. Why are you angry, Sasuke? Sasuke's Sharingan eyes glared at Naruto. Was that necessary? Yes, replied Naruto. You should thank me, Sasuke. I've solved your one major problem. Why should I thank you for telling Sakura that I'm a gay? Sasuke replied. Because I've solved your Sakura problem. She will never bother you very soon. Just look at her, Naruto said, gesturing to Sakura behind him. Sakura was muttering something in a depressed state when Sasuke turned to face her. He faced Naruto once more. After saying, whatever, he turned around and began to move in the direction of the tower. Naruto thought, It's always fun to mess with people's minds, and he followed Sasuke, Sakura, who appeared to be depressed, in tow. Sasuke pointed to a sizable poster on the wall across from the entrance and asked, "What is this?" "If you lack heaven, seek wisdom, be ready. If you lack earth, run in the fields, seek advantage. And if you heaven and earth, you can succeed in even the most dangerous mission. These rules will guide a extreme." After reading the plaque, Naruto said, "It's telling us to open the scrolls." He sealed his hands in a cross shape, and 4 clones materialized next to him as smoke puffs. While the other 2 clones each grabbed 2 earth scrolls, 2 clones each grabbed 2 heaven scrolls. With bewilderment, Sasuke questioned, "Why are you opening 4 scrolls?" He was aware that they would only need to pass 1 earth and 1 heaven scroll. Saying, "Don't you want to show them the Team 7's power?" The real Naruto turned to face him. After giving it some thought, Sasuke nodded. Since Sakura wasn't in a state to speak, she remained silent. Turning, Naruto faced his clones. "All right, open them on 3. The clones of Naruto exchanged glances before counting 1, 2, 3. To see what was inside, they opened the scrolls. When they saw the intricate seal on the scrolls, their eyes grew wide. They hurled them swiftly, and they fell in an X shape on the ground. A puff of smoke appeared a few seconds later, indicating that someone had been called. After the smoke cleared, Iruka and Kakashi were visible. They exchanged glances before turning to face Team 7. When Iruka didn't see the second team, he asked, "Where is other team?" When Sasuke said, "There is no second team," proud of his pupils, Kakashi inquired, "You mean you have 2 sets of heaven and earth scrolls?" Iruka's eyes widened in surprise as he asked, "You collected 3 extra scrolls in such short amount of time?" Naruto grinned. His words, "We have total 8 scrolls," were followed by a nod toward Sasuke. Iruka and Kakashi were stunned when Sasuke grinned and threw 4 more scrolls to the ground. Kakashi turned to Iruka in a hurry. "What I told you, they were born ready," he stated. He looked at his team and praised them. "Great job." Iruka's smile widened. "Anyway, let me tell you about the exam. The scrolls set up to allow us to meet the exam's takers at the end of the second test," he said with a grin on his face. "All 3 of you passed the second test, congratulations." Sakura remained silent as Naruto and Sasuke grinned. Even Kakashi didn't notice that. Iruka continued as he stood there grinning at them and wondering a little why Naruto wasn't bouncing around with joy. "I would like to treat you to a round of ramen for passing, but I think there might be more to this test. Unfortunately, we won't know until after the test is over," he said. He gestured to the poster and said, "Now about this plaque." "All right," Kakashi thought. He's started his dull lecture again. He took out and began reading his favorite orange book. "Those scrolls give the missing words," Iruka said, pointing to the 2 open scrolls at his feet. "This is the Chunin motto that Hokage Sama has written." When he heard Naruto's words, he stopped abruptly from explaining the motto. "The heaven in the motto refers to human mind and the earth refers to human body." "Yin and yang," murmured Naruto. With a curious expression, Iruka questioned, "Do you understand it?" "It means that if you have shortage of one, you should train harder for it, and only balance of the 2 will see you to greatness. If I am not mistaken, the missing word from the line, 'These rules will guide a extreme,' must be either shinobi or person," Naruto responded in a completely unexpected manner. "Why? Yes, that's what it means," Iruka said, looking shocked. "So what's now?" wanted Naruto to know. "You have about 4 days before the test is over. Get some rest," Iruka advised. "I'm proud of you," Kakashi said, smiling at them as he finally closed his book. When Iruka asked, "What happened to Sakura?" Kakashi finally noticed that she was too quiet, which was unusual for her. "Well, I told her Sasuke liked more mature woman and she lacked of that department," Naruto replied. As Kakashi turned to face Sasuke, Iruka's perspiration stopped. "It's good to know you aren't gay, Sasuke." When Sasuke finally lost it, he screamed, "Where the hell did you get that kind of idea?" Kakashi gave his head a scratch. "Well." Sasuke scowled at Naruto and said, "Okay, no need to tell me that again. I already know that." "Okay," Kakashi said, turning to face his blonde pupil. "How did you find out that?" Naruto grinned. With a close observation, Kakashi Sensei. He began telling him everything after saying that. Sasuke scowled at his teammate and Sensei. He tightened his jaw. Who would he kill first? He thought to himself. His teammate, brother, or Sensei? Are they deliberately ignoring me? Iruka had a drop of perspiration on the back of his head as he watched the scene. Team 7 is peculiar. The other 4 days were over. In the middle of the tower, everyone who had survived the forest of death gathered. Naruto noticed people who had made it past the second stage as he scanned the area. In addition to his team, the more seasoned Team 9 had passed along to the other rookie teams, 8 and 10. Kabuto's group had also arrived. One team from Sound had also passed, as had the Gaara's team. There was nobody from Cloud and Stone. Anko began by jolting everyone out of their reverie with, "To everyone who has made it this far, I would like to congratulate you on passing the second stage of the Chunin exams. Now I suggest all you listen carefully to Hokage Sama, who will be explaining the third test. Before that, I wish to explain something to you. It concerns the true meaning of this Chunin selection exams. Why do we have all the allied countries taking the exam at the same time, even some neutral countries?" The Hokage said, clearing his throat before he spoke. He then turned to face the faces of all the genins. He paused to emphasize his statement, to promote friendship among countries, to raise the level of shinobi. Do not be confused, this exam is war. As some genins shifted uneasily, the tension in the area increased. If we were to turn back time, at some point, all of us would be fighting the other countries over who would rule. This exam is an alternate that allows us countries to avoid such wasteful fighting. For the third test, lords and ladies of all countries as well as the leaders of your countries will all be watching your fights. You will fight with your life on the line to protect not your homeland but its prestige. If your country's seen as weak, you will lose clients, the livelihood of a shinobi. If you are strong, you will gain clients, bolstering your home. If your country shown as a strong country, it will also send a political message to other countries. He stopped talking for a moment. Then why must we risk our lives? There has a better way to fight for this prestige, Kiba said. The strength of the country is the strength of the village. The strength of the village is the strength of the shinobi, and a shinobi's true strength is only born with life. Risking battle, the Hokage said in a serious tone. This exam only has meaning because there are life. Risking battles. The friendships between shinobi countries must this, and it is as soon as because this that we call it an exercise in friendship. This fight is not just your own, it is a life. Risking battle with the prestige of your country in line with your own performance. Just as he opened his mouth to speak again, a sickly looking Chunin materialized before him. Cough. Actually Hokage Sama. Cough. Would you please let me explain this? Cough. To the genins? He replied. Hiruzen stepped back and nodded. The Chunin got to his feet and spun around. The man's appearance forced Naruto to raise an eyebrow. He wore a bandana style headband and was dressed in the typical Chunin uniform. But it was his overall sickly appearance and the deep bags under his eyes that drew his attention. Is he ill? Instead of here, he ought to be in the hospital. Hayate, who coughed so much that many genins questioned whether he was fit for duty, said, "Hello, my name is Cough Gecko Hayate and I'm the proctor for the Cough third stage of the Chunin exams. Unfortunately, it seems that the first and second stages of the Chunin exams were too easy and we now have too many candidates. Because this, we will be holding the preliminary matches." After muttering to himself, Shikamaru raised his voice. He questioned, "What the hell? Preliminaries?" His coughing stopped. Because the first and second tests were too easy this year, we've too many participants for the third test. The Chunin exams rules state that we must thin out the numbers of those taking the third exam. As Hokage Sama has explained, there are many visitors for this exam and time is limited, so too many participants cannot be accommodated. He continued to cough. Those that wish to withdraw may step forward and do so now that they have heard these conditions. Also, this is an individual basis from here on out and if you quit, your team will not penalize. Kabuto looked sorry as he raised his right hand in the air and said, "Excuse me, Proctor, I must give up. My chakra is low and I lost hearing in my left ear. I'm afraid I can't fight." After consulting his paper, Hayate nodded and asked, "You are Yakushi Kabuto, correct?" When Kabuto left, he asked for others, but nobody responded. "Indeed you are, what a bad luck you have. All right, you can leave. All right, everybody on the balcony. The electronic board will show your names in a random fashion and then you fight." Naruto trailed behind his teammates as they ascended to the balcony to join the Kakashi. He gave Kabuto a look. The phony genin was a good liar. But he was unable to conceal anything from Naruto. Kabuto was more than just a genin. As he had suspected, he was a skilled spy. Orochimaru's, probably, as he had displayed an unhealthy fascination with Sasuke. The rules for this battle are simple. There are no rules, the match continues until one of you dies, out, or declares defeat. If you don't wish to kill, quickly acknowledge your defeat. When the winner has been clearly established, I will jump in and stop the fight. If you continue to harm your opponent after the fight has declared, you may find yourself in the hospital, Hayate said while coughing and grinned at the team of genins. Pointing to a large, black screen that had been exposed, he said, and the thing that will decide your future is that this electronic screen will randomly select 2 contestants to fight. Now, let's begin. Naruto chose to play with the electronic board when it began to roll. Karasu-chan. In response, Karasu said, "Yes, master. I understand." Without indicating her presence or warning anyone, she arrived at the electronic board and confused it with an electric pulse. The genins waited tensely as the board scrolled through the names of the numerous competitors, each one accompanied by a dinging sound, until the names of the first 2 contestants were announced by a loud beep. Akado Yoroi versus Aburame Shino genin both descended to the arena below and turned to face one another. Hayate said, "First match, Aburame Shino versus Akado Yoroi, begin," and then disappeared from the floor, not wanting to interfere with the fight. Shino just stood where he was. Yoroi ran toward him. To his surprise, he grabbed the rookie, which was his move. He smiled. "Huh, you're my kid. My chakra draining technique will finish you off." Shino calmly remarked, "How curious Yoroi-san that you would use such a technique on myself." A swarm of insects rushed out of his wide sleeves to latch on the immobilized Yoroi as he grabbed him with both hands. Yoroi attempted to pull away from Shino as his chakra sucking method stopped working. There was no way. As more and more insects poured out of his coat and covered Yoroi like a living, buzzing second skin, Shino drew nearer. Yoroi soon stopped struggling. Shino let go of his wrestling grip, and his insects fled beneath his coat. "Aburame Shino is the winner," declared Hayate. Yoroi's unconscious form was hurried out by the medic. "Nins. Idiot," snorted Naruto. Sakura, who had somehow recovered from her depressive state and returned to her normal state, asked, "What do you mean, Naruto?" Close combat with an Aburame clansman is a foolish thing often. Their bugs are widely known to able to suck one's whole chakra in a minute or so. Even a few seconds are enough to lose a large supply of chakra. Shino's opponent chose a wrong way to attack him. "You don't drain the Aburame ninja, he does that to you," Naruto clarified. Temari vs Kiba. Inuzuka Kiba skipped the stairs and simply leapt off the railing, exclaiming, "Alright Akamaru, it looks like we're up." Shaking her head, Temari slid into the middle of the arena from the other balcony. Looking at both, Hayate reminded them that if he intervened, the fight would be over. He swiftly lifted and dropped his hand at each of their nods. "Begin." Kiba swung at the girl, launching himself at her right away, but she was able to block it with ease by simply tilting her fan in the direction of it. With a growl, Kiba leapt back along Akamaru. Ninja art of beast mimicry. All. Force jutsu. His teeth and nails grew longer, and he started to look more like an animal. Temari simply took out her enormous fan and flipped it open. "I'll beat you without even moving from this spot," she boasted. Kiba growled and lunged at her once more. "Don't get your hopes up." Temari's fan blocked Kiba once more. Akamaru quickly turned and kicked the dog away when they both tried. As Akamaru bounced and skidded across the floor, Kiba turned, his eyes wide. He faced Temari once more. He rushed to check on Akamaru, but that was a big mistake. "You bitch," he exclaimed. Temari swiftly spread her fan wide. Kiba swung it forcefully as she leaned over Akamaru, causing a tremendous gust of wind to pick them both up and slam them against the wall. They both collapsed to the ground, unconscious, and whined pitifully. Hayate went to Temari on foot. "Winner is Temari. Medic." Nins rushed into the arena to check Kiba and Akamaru and to escort them out of the chamber as Temari ascended the stairs to rejoin her team. Naruto remarked, "Karasu-chan, now Sakura and Ino." Yamanaka Ino versus Haruno Sakura. As the match began, Naruto scowled. After a brief altercation and a pathetic double knockout blow to the head, there was a shouting match. As Kakashi and Ino's sensei, Asuma, led them both to the balcony, he shook his head in dismay. Naruto reflected, "I thought that was the most pitiful match I've ever seen." The flashing board displayed the following names. Zaku Abumi versus Uzumaki Naruto. With a sly smile, Naruto descended to confront Sound Genin Zaku Abumi. Zaku was a mean-looking boy with dark hair. Sound's headband had 2 metallic guards running from his face, one on each side of his head. Zaku's impatient snarl, "Hurry up, you leaf trash," demonstrated his lack of caution and patience. Naruto simply sat back and admired Zaku's haughty ignorance. Hayate exclaimed, "Uzumaki Naruto vs Zaku Abumi begins," and then disappeared. The blonde genin simply blurred away as Zaku instantly raised his arms and launched a high-pressure air blast at her. The force of Zaku's attack was demonstrated when it split the wall in a broad semicircle. Zaku gave Naruto an evil laugh. As his palms glowed with collected chakra, he exclaimed, "Extreme decapitating airwaves. Die," and sent a huge blast of air in Naruto's direction. This sent Naruto flying toward the wall after striking him squarely in the stomach. He laughed nefariously at the unconscious Naruto, saying, "Hey, you're just trash." A voice said, "Seems you have an interesting move," directly behind him. Zaku's gaze returned to another Naruto. He yelled, "W. What? How?" He turned around in a hurry and saw Naruto, whom he had vanquished, vanishing into a cloud of smoke. Smirking, Naruto said, "It's my turn. Let's dance, shall we?" Blonde turned into swarms of black butterflies when Zaku attempted to attack him. He looked around for the blonde and yelled, "Where are you? Are you afraid of me? You scaredy cat?" Skeletal arms suddenly sprang up from the ground and seized Zaku by the feet. More human skeletons then emerged from the ground and began grabbing him. "What?" Kurenai pondered, and then it dawned on her, a genjutsu. Ino yelled, "What the hell is that?" She had approached the railing to examine the jutsu up close. Sakura attempted to inquire, "What's this technique? Don't tell me." "Pay close attention, Sakura, it's a genjutsu," Kakashi remarked. "An excellent one." Kurenai thought, "It's a genjutsu of the highest caliber." She gave Naruto a downward glance. How is Naruto aware of it? Whoa! How long has Naruto been this strong? Kiba pondered, appearing shocked and taken aback. Now, I remember it where I'd seen his face. The blonde Sand Kunoichi who had said it was looked at by the Rookie 9 and their senseis. Kankuro wanted to know more about the blonde boy, so he asked his sister, "Where?" "In the bingo book," replied Temari. "What?" Sasuke yelled. Temari gave him a startled look. Then she pulled a book out of the pouch and tossed it at him, saying, "Don't you know your friend is in the Hidden Clouds bingo book? Read entry number 399. Sasuke picked up the book quickly. As Sakura and Ino glanced over his shoulder to read the entry number 399, he opened it and began reading. Their eyes, like Sasuke's, widened when they were done. "What's in it, Ino?" Choji inquired after observing the face's expression. Ino exclaimed, "I can't believe it, Naruto is in the bingo book." "What?" asked Kiba. He approached Sasuke, grabbed the book out of his grasp, and started reading aloud to those who were also interested in learning more. Book entry number 399 for bingo name. The Demon Slayer of the Hidden Leaf, Uzumaki Naruto. Male gender blue eyes blonde hair color age, approximately 13. Genin is the ninja rank. Village, the village of the Hidden Leaf. Level of threat. High C rank alerts. Exercise caution. Elemental affinities that are known. Fire and wind. Weapons. Standard ninja weapons, such as katanas and kunai and shuriken. Special skills. High chakra capacity, capacity to use a forbidden jutsu, Kage Bushin no Jutsu, to create thousands of clones. Additional details. Without suffering any injuries, he vanquished his partner who possessed the ice release bloodline and killed Momochi Zabuza, the demon of the hidden mist. Bounty. Zero Ryo. The majority of Genin's eyes immediately popped out of their sockets. They were at a loss for words. Kurenai, who had no knowledge of the matter, was unable to speak. Sakura was still in shock over what she had read when she asked, "Naruto is in bingo book." According to Choji, the Demon Slayer is a cool name. The shock had passed him by. With a jealous look, Sasuke turned to face Naruto in the arena. Hinata thought, Naruto.kun is so powerful. She flushed as she observed Naruto. As he arrived there with his young students, Guy exclaimed, "Kakashi, my eternal rival," in his typically upbeat tone. When Kiba was reading the bingo books about Kakashi's blonde student, he and his team were not far from the Rookie 9. Shit, oh. Kakashi didn't alter his external expression, but he cursed in his head. "I heard about Naruto.kun. I've come in here to congratulate you. He's a youthful student," Guy added, shouting the final line while his eyes blazed with fire. He looked at his favorite student, Lee. "Yes, Guy. Sensei," Rock Lee exclaimed, echoing his sensei's tone. Guy gestured toward Naruto. The youthful Naruto. Is from now your eternal rival. Lee exclaimed, yes, Guy. Sensei. With the same fervor and resolve in his eyes. I promise you. Guy. Sensei, I will get myself in the bingo book like my new rival. If I can't do it, then I'll run 100 laps around the leaf on my hands. When Guy heard that, his eyes welled up with emotion. Such youthful determination. Lee, I'm proud of you. Guy. Exclaimed Lee, his eyes welling with joy. Lee. Guy. Sensei. Oh no. The 4 genins and the 3 junins who had previously witnessed this thought. The other 6 genins weren't as fortunate, but Sakura and Sasuke both closed their eyes to avoid this terrifying scene. They were horrified by what they saw. Lee. Guy. Sensei. Lee. Guy. Sensei. Will you two shut up? Tenten yelled as loudly as she could while slamming both of her fists into the heads of the teacher and student, causing them to fall to the ground and essentially snap them shut. Tenten silenced Lee and Guy, and everyone sighed with relief at the welcome silence that followed. One member of the group, though, wasn't feeling as good about the circumstances as the others. This individual turned out to be Hyuga Hinata. Her cousin Neji was glaring at her, and she felt uneasy around him. In front of the Zaku, Naruto emerged. He said, surrender now. Zaku yelled, never, you the leaf trash. Naruto sucked in a deep breath and went through some hand seals before saying, as you wish. He uttered the words, fire release. Great fireball jutsu. And a huge ball of roaring flame emerged. It was entirely white and 3 times larger than the Zaku. Zaku gave the fireball a horrified glance. He could feel the heat emanating from it. There had been no opportunity for him to scream. His body struck the fireball. Fireball's force was too great, and it rolled at the wall's opposite location. After it subsided, only a few of Zaku's body parts were left. Naruto was joined by Hayate. He declared, Uzumaki Naruto is the winner, before he turned to face Zaku's body, and the 10 minutes break to clean all this mess. Naruto simply left without giving a thought. Knowing that his display of power had alarmed some of his potential opponents, he grinned to himself. Team 8 was astounded by Naruto's display of ruthlessness. They hadn't witnessed that aspect of Naruto, in contrast to others. Could he be Naruto? Kiba pondered. He had his mouth agape. With a hint of fear in her eyes, Hinata thought, he killed him. She didn't know that Naruto. This is the Academy's dead. Last. What on earth is he learning from Kakashi? Wondering what Kakashi had done to the blonde, Kurenai pondered. She had heard about a different Naruto. Anko smiled crazily and said, I like him. Now he is my second favorite kid, next to Kurenai, who was scowling at Naruto's power show. She had appeared out of nowhere. You would, Anko, said Kurenai. With curiosity, assume a question, so who's first? Anko licked her lips and smiled. Ryu. Kakashi became interested at that familiar name. Why? He inquired. To Anko's delight, that kid gave Orochimaru a nice beating in the Forest of Death, so he's gotten a plus point in my book. What do you mean? Inquired Kakashi. Why was Orochimaru in the Forest of Death? In response to his inquiry, Sakura stated, Orochimaru had attacked on me and Sasuke. In Forest of Death. Okay. I didn't know that, Anko said, looking at the kunoichi with the pink hair. She detested her former sensei, but she couldn't deny that he was an exceptionally skilled shinobi. But how hell are you still alive after that? She asked. Kakashi squinted at Sakura with his single eye. Genin, tell me everything, he demanded in a chilly voice. Sakura had never witnessed this aspect of her sensei before. She gave a terrified nod. She began to tell him about their run-in with Ryu and the snake Sanin, saying, Ryu saved us. Kakashi's eyes narrowed even more as she concluded her tale. And why didn't any of you tell me about this earlier? Asked the man. According to his book, those who betray ninja rules are trash, but those who betray their comrades are worse than trash. And where was Naruto that time? To which Naruto replied, I was searching the scrolls. Behind Kakashi, he stood. Kakashi glanced at the blonde and turned around. Okay, but why didn't you inform me about it? Naruto remarked, well, you didn't give me a chance to tell you, and I had forgot after that. With that cliched response, Kakashi's perspiration fell. Who is Ryu? Shino inquired. Kakashi turned to Inuzuka after cocking his head slightly to look at Aburame. Kiba, read entry number 9. Okay, said Kiba. He began reading entry number 9 aloud so that everyone, especially his team, could hear. Bingo book entry number 9 name. Uchiha Ryu, the black dragon. Gender: male. Eye color: blue. Hair color: black. Age: around 16 years old. Ninja rank: none. Village: none. Threat level: S rank. Warnings: flee on sight. Order for anyone below Chuunin. Known elemental affinities: lightning and fire. Weapons: the second Hokage's Raijin no Ken and the Kabikirabocho, one of sword, belongs to the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Special abilities: Sharingan, teleportation, intangibility, the black lightning, and sensor. Nin, assume. Other information: he is highly capable of using both lightning and fire jutsus in battle. He knows a lightning jutsu, which has looked similar to the 4th Raikage's lightning armor. Using that jutsu, he killed over 200 thugs in Wave Country in mere minutes. Another thing about him is that he calls himself Madara's grandson. We don't know how much true it is. Bounty: 350 million. Ryo Shino stated, he's an S-rank ninja with a stoic demeanor. Kiba remarked, but he is only a few years older than us. He didn't think a person only a few years his senior was more powerful than any ninja he had ever encountered. Kiba: there are many ninjas who are younger than you, yet stronger than me, said Kurenai. Naruto's statement, the prime example is front of you, Kiba, captured his and everyone else's attention. Hitaki Kakashi. At age 5, he graduated from the academy in a single year at the top of his class. He eventually joined a team alongside Uchiha Obito and Nohara Rin under our 4th homage Namikaze Minato's command. A year later, he became Chuunin after facing and defeating Guy Sensei during the 3rd stage of the Chuunin exams. Guy struck his trademark pose. That was a best match. Naruto went on. A few years later, he became a Chuunin, and enrolled in the Anbu after that. Eventually, he was promoted to the rank of Anbu captain. All the genins who were unaware of that opened their mouths to gaze at Kakashi. It was difficult to accept that someone as lazy as Kakashi was a genius. Sakura asked incredulously, you were an Anbu captain, Kakashi. Sensei? The prodigy is our sensei. Kakashi grinned and rubbed the back of his head, saying, yeah. Naruto whispered in Sasuke's ear and said, before becoming an Anbu captain, your brother worked under the guidance of Kakashi Sensei, which caused his eyes to widen even more. With haste, Sasuke turned to Kakashi. He is therefore a prodigy like him. He reasoned that perhaps he could teach me something that would help me kill him. Anyway, Naruto.kun, Lee said, utilizing his unadulterated speed to materialize in front of Naruto. Form now, you're my eternal rival. Lee nodded when Naruto said, eternal rival, but why me? The reason, Lee said, because you're good, this is not something I have time for. Naruto made a serious face as he glanced at Lee. But I'm not a right rival for you, Lee. Huh? Tell me, Lee, who is your role model? Guy Sensei. And who is his rival? Before turning back to Naruto, Lee glanced at Kakashi. I don't get it, Naruto.kun. Lee looked at Sasuke and said, Lee, Guy Sensei's rival has the Sharingan. Who has the Sharingan beside Kakashi? Sensei. Exactly, Sasuke. If your idol is Guy Sensei, then you need a rival like his. Sasuke has the Sharingan. He's right rival for you. Maida Guy's face brightened with insight. He said, you're right, Naruto.kun, and he listened to his student. Sasuke.kun is right eternal rival for you, Lee. Lee greeted Sasuke with a, hi, Guy Sensei, and pointed with his index finger, saying, form now you are my eternal rival, Sasuke.kun. Sasuke's mouth fell to the floor. Asuma and Kakashi were trying not to laugh at Sasuke's bad luck. In order to get away from Lee, Naruto essentially shoved him aside. Kakashi considered Naruto's strategy for escaping the situation and concluded that this was the appropriate way to employ a cunning mind and silver tongue. Sasuke, poor guy. Lee will never leave him alone if he is like his mentor. 2 names appeared on the board after the arena had been cleaned. Tsurugi Masumi vs Uchiha Sasuke. Hayate exclaimed, Uchiha Sasuke vs Tsurugi Masumi, begins, and left the arena. Sasuke waited for his opponent to move instead of attacking directly. Tsurugi said, you're a Uchiha, huh? Sasuke grinned and said, yeah, so what, you're going to give up now? He glanced up thoughtfully and said, just because of the Sharingan doesn't mean you don't stand a chance. Oh wait, it does. He then leapt to his feet and gave a few hand seals. Fire release. Phoenix Sage Fire Jutsu. Sasuke was spitting tiny fireballs out of him, and Tsurugi slithered around them. Sasuke halted his assaults and fell to the ground a few feet from his adversary. Come at me, Uchiha! Yelled the leaf.nin, who wore glasses. Sasuke remarked, you can bend your body any way you want, huh? Which means you just want to choke me to death or some when I come close. He continued to snort. Fine, try it. Sasuke lunged forward and used a right hook to grab Tsurugi by the jaw. Tsurugi's neck twisted back as he had anticipated, but Sasuke leapt clear of Tsurugi's now failed head. But, rather, Sasuke's left foot struck Tsurugi's head directly. Sasuke simply responded with a roundhouse kick, causing Tsurugi's entire body to twist around as his neck twisted back once more. Hey, taunted Tsurugi, you're too slow to counter me. After sweeping both of Tsurugi's legs out from under him, Sasuke elbowed him in the stomach. Sasuke swiftly executed a few hands seals as Tsurugi's thrashed through the air. He exclaimed, however, good try. Fire release. Dragon fire jutsu, when his stream of fire unexpectedly ducked. Tsurugi laughed and rushed toward Sasuke, saying, your attacks aren't that powerful, you know? His voice was quick. But then, it's a little hard to hurt a body like mine. Is it? Now behind him, Sasuke slammed a kunai into Tsurugi's shoulder and then into his knee, causing his eyes to widen. As he leapt over Tsurugi, who was yelling in agony, he questioned, you can't move so smoothly now, can you? Sasuke threw another kunai right through Tsurugi's left foot before he landed. Don't underestimate me, Tsurugi yelled while simultaneously laughing. These wounds, I can move them to a less annoying spot, with this body of mine, he uttered before passing out. Uchiha Sasuke is the winner, exclaimed Hayate. Sasuke turned to leave, but stopped for a second to look at the medics removing Tsurugi. He resumed his stroll. I must say, my eternal rival. Both of your students are quite talented, Guy told Kakashi, who had his face buried in his favorite book. Kakashi glanced at Guy and put the book down. What? Did you say something, Guy? A dramatic, damn you and your hip attitude, Kakashi, was Guy's exclamation. Kakashi thought it was still useful. He turned around and saw Sasuke and Naruto, his two students who had passed the preliminary. I have no idea about Naruto, but I am well aware of Sasuke and Sakura's strength. Sakura and Ino yelled, you were great, Sasuke.kun, in an attempt to encourage Sasuke. Naruto chose to disregard them both. Then he noticed that the names were the only thing on the flashing board. Hyuga Neji versus Hyuga Hinata. Karasu. Chan. Did you do this on purpose? Naruto telepathically asked his animal partner when he saw names. No, master, said Karasu, it's accidentally happened. Shaking his head, Naruto glanced down at Hyuga Hinata's tumbling form. She's not having a good day. Preliminary round of the Chunin exams. Hyuga Neji, are you ready? Asked Hayate, holding up a hand. Neji nodded, and he turned to Hinata. His hand flashed down after receiving a second nod. Hyuga Hinata, are you ready? He asked. Then you may begin, he said and disappeared. Before we begin the fight, I'd like to say something, Hinata. Sama. You don't make a good shinobi. Forfeit now, Neji said patronizingly as he glanced at Hinata, which made her look down. He hadn't even adopted a taijutsu stance, and neither had Hinata, as Neji tore her with his words, you are too kind. You wish for harmony and avoid conflict. You agree with others, never resisting. And you've no confidence in yourself. I always feel your sense of inferiority. That's why I thought it'd be best for you to remain a genin. As Naruto saw Neji's words disrupt Hinata's focus and confidence, he thought, interesting way to use psychological warfare to gain an edge in battles. Neji said, without really asking a question, but, you entered the Chunin exams because your team could not advance without you. You entered this unwillingly, am I wrong? With her hands clenched, Hinata looked back up and said, N.No, I entered too. Change myself. IJ. Just W. Wanted T.To change. Naruto inspected the scene. She is going to lose, he said at last once. He saw Kurenai giving him a fierce glare. Don't look at me like that. It's your own fault why she's like this. Everyone, including the third Hokage, turned to face them when they heard Naruto's voice. Kurenai clenched her fist in rage and asked, what are you implying, Uzumaki? Naruto sneered. You're her teacher. You'd have gotten her in a trackway before she fought here. Except for Tenten, all Leaf's kunoichis need a reality check. The shinobi world isn't for a naive girl like her. She has low confidence and is very shy, whom scares of her own shadow. He glanced at Kurenai who was clenching her with rage. This isn't a primary school where everyone is everyone's friend and you can hold her hand the entire time. This is Shinobi World and you are her teacher, not her mother. Kiba yelled angrily. Hey! Do not talk like that to Kurenai. Sensei! Fang passing Fang! He exclaimed, leaping into the air and spinning quickly toward Naruto. When the attack was only a few inches from Naruto, he sidestepped, causing Kiba's attack to miss its target. He collided with the wall behind Naruto. Kiba got to his feet and rubbed his head. Naruto suddenly materialized in front of him and seized him by the neck, squeezing it as he prepared to try again. He demonstrated his superior strength by raising him up. Kiba fought to break free, but Naruto was far more powerful than him. With a puff of smoke, another Naruto materialized and seized Orochimaru, Kiba's ninja dog, who had attempted to assist Kiba. AKA Maru, Kiba attempted to call the name of his partner. Hayate seemed to break up the fight in the smoke. Cough. No fight is allowed, cough, outside the arena and during the Chunin exams, he stated. Naruto stated, I was just defending myself. He attacked me first, without turning away from Kiba. Ask Sasuke, he will tell you. Uchiha nodded his head as Hayate glanced at him. Very well, cough, but let him go, he replied. Naruto said, whatever, and hurled Kiba with force. After striking the ground, Kiba bounced, rolled, and finally stopped, unconscious. Additionally, Naruto's clone vanished, releasing Orochimaru, the ninja dog, who hurried over to see how Kiba was doing. Naruto looked over at Kurenai. Now, where are we? Oh, yes. If you asked me, you shouldn't be sensei of Team 8, he replied. Kurenai gave him the most intense glare she was capable of. She wanted to rip him to pieces. He had called her a bad teacher in addition to hurting her student. She glanced at her friends, her fellow Junins. Nobody attempted to stop Naruto or offered any defense. They were all staring at Naruto and listing. It's not because you're not a good teacher. You're a good teacher, I admit that, but you're not a right teacher for Hinata. You've already known her before becoming her Junin sensei. You've got an emotional attachment with her. You care for her like a mother, but she doesn't need a mother. Naruto turned to leave, but he stopped to say one final thing. He started to leave yet again, saying, it's not too late. You can still change her, but only if she lived after the fight. Glancing up from his book, Kakashi said, Naruto, where are you going? Without turning around, Naruto responded, to eat something, and left. That was harsh, said Anko. She looked over at Kurenai. That was really harsh, Nai-chan, but true. You really need to stop acting like mother to her. You can't protect her forever. Kurenai remained silent. She was deeply affected by Naruto's final remarks. What she would do if the battle claimed Hinata's life. She clutched the railing and clenched it in rage as she peered down at the arena. She cast a worried and concerned glance down at her pupil. The shy girl's situation was deteriorating rapidly. She had secretly hoped for something similar to occur. She had allowed Hinata to take the test in the hopes that she would pass even though she knew she wasn't prepared to become a Chunin. The battle between Kiba and Naruto ended the match between two Hyuga, which Hayate had entered the arena to resume. He exclaimed, you may begin again, and departed in a puff of smoke. Neji's icy gaze was fixed on Hinata. Forfeit, Hinata. Sama. N. Neji.ni.san. I won't retreat anymore, this time, I will fight, said Hinata. Since she hadn't heard Naruto's words, she still had some confidence. As he assumed a fighting stance, Neji exclaimed, then prepare yourself. Neji prepared his hands and leaned forward to run at Hinata. As Hinata blocked Neji's attack, she started to defend herself. After that, Hinata attempted to attack Neji, but Neji blocked her blow. The two started exchanging blows and avoiding each other's assault. Hinata took a step back and threw all of her strength into her palm strike because the two were at a complete standstill. She struck Neji hard, but Neji deflected her blow. When Neji saw his opportunity, he attacked Hinata at the chest and pushed his 2 fingers at her arm, ending the two-way standoff. Hinata had been breathing heavily and coughing up blood. However, Hinata persisted and used her other arm to attack Neji. Grabbing Hinata's arm, Neji pushed his 2 fingers once more. Neji then took off Hinata's arm sleeve, exposing several wounds. What's that? Sakura inquired inquisitively. Kakashi responded to her query. Above the inner coil systems are 361 pressure points called tenketsu. They're the size of the tip of needle though. These are also called the opening points, and if you press these pressure points accurately, you can stop or increase your opponent's chakra flow. You can control however you want these opening points, he explained. Frankly speaking, even my Sharingan can't see them. When they looked down, They saw that Hinata had done everything she could to use her one healthy hand to her advantage in the battle. Neji exclaimed, "Forfeit, Hinata." Sama. He struck his cousin with his palm just below her heart, sending her flying away from him. Hinata stumbled to her feet after falling. Her response was, "No, I'm not done yet." Neji sneered at her pointless attempt. His tone was harsh and cold. "I can see that you can hardly stand. Acting tough is useless," he said. "From the time of your birth, the responsibility of the Hyuga main house has been forced upon you. You have hated yourself for your own weakness. But people cannot change. That is destiny. There is no need to suffer anymore." "That's not true, Neji.ni.san. Because I can see it. It's not me at all," Hinata replied. Blood came out of her cough. "The person lost and suffering within the destiny of the main and branch houses is you." Neji became irate. Raising his hand, he dashed to deliver the last blow to her. Hayate shouted, "Neji, this match is over." 5 Junins, Hayate, Guy, Asuma, Kurenai, and Kakashi, appears around Neji in a cloud of smoke to stop him before he can deliver the final blow. Guy told his student, "Neji, give it rest," while preventing him from acting in any way so he wouldn't be held accountable for his actions later. "Don't lose your head over this main family stuff." Ignoring him, Neji scowled at every Junin. "Why do even other Junins jump in?" "Oh, more special treatment for the main family," he said with a tone full of hate. Hinata screamed, "Gaara! Gaara!" and collapsed to the ground, coughing up blood and gripping in agony. Kurenai yelled, "Hinata!" as she sprinted over her pupil, who she considered to be her daughter. She examined her health. Her face was laced with worry. Now Hinata was experiencing a heart attack. "Oh no, she has an irregular heartbeat." She glared at Neji as she cocked her head in his direction. He was going to murder her. Hinata coughed up blood once more. Kurenai glanced at her pupil before turning to face the medical staff. She shouted, "Medical team, what are you doing? Hurry." Medic. Nins hurried to Hinata's aid. One medical.nin stated, "At this rate, she won't last 10 minutes. Take her to the emergency medical room." Time digression against Rock Lee, Sabaku no Gaara. Rock Lee and Sabaku no Gaara, please report to the arena floor, Hayate shouted. While Rock Lee leapt from the balcony, landed in the arena, and then swiftly made his way to his designated spot, Gaara vanished from his position and reappeared on the arena floor in a swirl of sand. As Hayate continued, the two contestants exchanged glances. Both combatants nodded when he asked, "Combatants ready?" Jumping back, he said, "Begin," and vanished. With his right hand extended and pointing in Gaara's direction, Lee assumed a stance. His legs stayed locked, and his body swiveled slightly away from Gaara, allowing people on Lee's left side to see the majority of his chest. He was looking down at his opponent with a serious expression on his face, and his left hand was fisted behind his waist behind him. As his gourd started to pour his sand out to collect in a circle around Lee, Gaara gazed at him calmly. All of the genins and junins waited for the fight to begin from the balcony. "Interesting," a voice that was familiar said. Kakashi turned his back quickly. "Naruto," he uttered, startled by his unexpected appearance from behind. "I was not even aware of him." He gave the blonde a look. "I am unable to sense his chakra despite the fact that he is standing in front of me." He observed him consuming a ball of rice. "Have you forgotten about your poor, hungry sensei?" After giving Kakashi a sardonic glance, Naruto removed a bento box from the pouch. He hurled it at him. Kakashi caught the box with ease. He lifted his mask just enough to reveal his mouth. He took one of the shrimp out of the box. He nibbled a little. He saw his fellow students staring at him sardonically and said, "It's good. That's why you're my favorite student, Naruto. See, he has brought his hungry teacher something to eat." Sakura and Sasuke looked down at the arena and shook their heads. Naruto approached the silver-haired Chuunin and inquired, "What happened while I was gone?" He stood next to him, gazing down at the arena. After saying, Neji won, Kakashi took another bite. Then there were a few matches after that. Curious, Naruto questioned, "So who won?" Kakashi told him, "This is the last match. Nara Shikamaru, Dosu Kinuta, and Kankuro are in the final match." Naruto gazed at the arena below. Well, this match is not going to end well for Lee. Gaara is the unstable Jinchuriki of Tanuki. Kakashi's single eye grew wide. He glanced over at Gaara, then back at Naruto. He asked, "Are you sure about it?" Naruto gave a nod. The Tanuki's most notable ability is his sand manipulation, using it as an effective weapon and shield which is passed down to his container. He was staring at the red-headed child. He cocked his head and glanced at Lee, saying, Gaara has a nearly absolute defense of sand which is not easy to penetrate, even for an experienced ninja. His gaze shifted to Kakashi, and he said, the only advantage Lee has is his speed. Also, get ready to save Lee. Gaara never leaves his opponent alive. There's another thing, Gaara doesn't sleep because if he does Tanuki will take control. Kakashi glanced at Gaara below. He was thinking deeply. It doesn't appear to be good. Why did sand bring? Oh, their secret weapon for destroying the hidden leaf is Gaara. As they conversed, the genins, with the ability to listen in on their conversation, the majority of genins were curious about what Jinchuriki meant. And why does hearing it make Kakashi-sensei appear anxious? Jinchuriki. Shikamaru, the most intelligent genin, gazed at Gaara and thought, the power of human sacrifice. Lee lunged forward and tried to hit Gaara, but his sand stopped all of his blows. Gaara was collecting and producing more sand from beneath the earth while diverting Lee's attention. Lee was encircled by the gathered sand that rose from the earth. Lee twisted away from his attack and leapt on top of the highest finger of the statue of the twin hands near the arena's rear. Guy shouted, Lee, take them off, down. Surprised, Lee squatted on his perch and yelled up, B. But Guy. Sensei. You said never to do that unless I was defending the lives of people who are precious to me. I'll let it happen, Guy called back, striking the nice guy pose. With a beaming smile, Lee reached down and removed his orange leg warmers. The weights strapped to his calves were visible when he slipped them off. He completed those as well in a flash. According to Sakura, weights. Kakashi, who had come to stand beside his fellow Chuunin sensei, thought, what an old-style training method, Guy. Yup, smiled Guy. Ino questioned, why doesn't he just use ninjutsu? Other genin were wondering the same thing, which perplexed her. Against an opponent such as this, ninjutsu would be a far more effective strategy. It's not that Lee doesn't use ninjutsu. He can't use them, Guy stated, drawing the attention of every genin. With a, huh? Ino answered. Lee has almost no skill for ninjutsu or genjutsu, Guy concluded. Sakura posed the query that all genins, particularly Sasuke, wanted to ask. No way, then how did he get this far? How did he gain the strength and ability to battle me and win? Sasuke pondered while observing Lee, a student of Maeda Guy. Guy began to describe. When I first met Lee, he was nothing. He had no talent at all. So only technique left for Lee as a ninja are taijutsu, he stated. There aren't many ninjas who can't use ninjutsu or genjutsu. That's why he can win. Naruto stated, he is a taijutsu specialist, to put it briefly. Guy remarked, you are right, Naruto.kun. Naruto glanced at Lee's weights intently as he turned his head back to the arena. I might be able to speed up even more by using his technique, but I'll use gravity seals rather than weights. Although the weights are nice, they would change my taijutsu technique, which differs greatly from Lee's. Temari observed the weights being removed by Gaara's opponent. She reasoned that removing a small amount of weight would not allow him to stay with Gaara's sand. Lee joyfully dropped the weights and got to his feet. He exclaimed, all right, now I can move easier. Dust kicked up and odd cries could be heard in the noise as the weights struck the ground. His abandoned weights were in the middle of two rather large craters that formed as the dust settled. Isn't that a bit excessive? Kakashi thought, Guy. The training methods used by the Maeda Guy were always a little too harsh. Then Guy said, Lee, go. Gaara felt a fist strike very near his head, and he blinked. He spun around to see what had happened, but when he felt a kick close to his stomach, his eyes widened in surprise. Before Lee dropped from the sky and kicked Gaara in the head, shocking everyone from the village hidden in the sand, Gaara was safe. That kid is impossible, Gaara. Kankuro and Temari pondered. It was the first time it had occurred. All right, Naruto said, I will definitely employ this training technique. It wasn't easy to impress Lee, and he was impressed by his speed. Sand fell and Gaara's face cracked, revealing a demonic expression that was swiftly replaced by his stoic one. He began attacking his opponent with his sand. Lee avoided a massive sand hand, but his right ankle was struck by a sand spear. After scowling at the enormous hole in his leg, which was nearly the size of his palm, Lee opened the first gate and lunged towards Gaara, kicking him in the air. Then he came up behind him, wrapped himself in his bandages, and yelled, Primary Lotus. Is it over? Asked Sakura. With a, no, look closely, Naruto replied. Lee waited even though he assumed it was over. He noticed a shell of sand in a deep crater, resembling Gaara, As the dust settled, he couldn't imagine how Gaara had gotten away with his technique, so he asked, "What? How?" He turned to look at Gaara coming out of a wall of sand where he could hear some laughter to his left. Gaara yelled, "You are strong. Haha. You will make me feel alive," as he lifted his arm and struck Lee with a real wave of sand. After opening the first gate, Lee was too exhausted to avoid the impact, slamming into the wall and screaming in agony. Eventually, the sand cleared, revealing that Lee's arms and torso were heavily bleeding. "I will take this seriously because it appears that you are a more than worthy opponent. Open the gate of life, the third gate." Lee started to flush as he yelled. Kakashi asked, "Guy, how many? How many of the 8 inner gates can that child open, exactly?" Guy showed him 5 fingers while closing his eyes, saying, "5 gates," he uttered those words. "You of all people should know how truly dangerous that technique is," Kakashi said, giving Guy a crazy look. He uttered those words. "There is something that boy absolutely cherishes. He has a strong desire to realize his dream. He ignored my warnings about the risks of what I taught him. I taught it to him cautiously because he stated that he was prepared to die in order to fulfill his dream. I wish to assist him in developing the courage to defend his convictions." Guy retorted, "I had to do it." Kakashi appeared enraged and shocked. "The 8 inner gates. What are they? Maybe I can use this technique to kill him," Sasuke inquired, wanting to learn more about Lee's method. "The 8 gates are 8 specific points on a person's chakra pathway system," Naruto said in response to his query. "The gate of openings, the gate of healing, the gate of life, the gate of pain, the gate of limit, the gate of view, the gate of wonder, and finally the gate of death," he said, noticing that everyone was listening. "They restrict the overall flow of chakra within a person's body. The 8 inner gates are those. However, there is a disadvantage to using them. Each time the inner gates are opened, the user's body is put under increasing strain while gaining exponentially more strength. The user gains physical strength beyond what a human could achieve if all 8 are opened. A few minutes. Then you immediately pass out." Hearing the technique's disadvantage caused everyone listening to drop their jaws to the ground. "I'll stick to my original plan," Sasuke thought, "so forget about this inner gates. Use the strong ninjutsus, counter all of his genjutsus, and then kill him." Then, everyone turned to face Lee, expecting him to attack, but many were taken aback when his chakra strength continued to grow before he yelled, "Fourth gate, the gate of pain, open." After vanishing in a whirlpool of dust, Lee reappeared beneath Gaara and kicked him up, continuing to do so until he appeared above him and punched him, then vanished again in a sudden rush of energy and reappeared beneath Gaara, kicking him and beating him senselessly while his muscles tore. Ignoring the pain, Lee moved to put an end to the situation, grabbing a strip of cloth and wrapping it around Gaara. "The gate of limit, the 5th gate, is open, Lotus in reverse," Lee said as soon as he opened the gate, smashing Gaara to the ground before collapsing on the ground while clutching his heavily bleeding right ankle. Kakashi said, "You have to stop this madness, Guy," because he didn't want to witness the death of the exceptionally gifted genin for no reason. "No, Lee can still fight," expressed Guy. "You want to watch your student give his life for a meaningless game?" "Huh. You are his teacher," Naruto said, drawing the attention of Guy and Kakashi. "What a waste of a good talent. You ought to have instructed him on when to use such a prohibited technique and where to make sacrifices. Giving your life in battle or on a mission for your nation and fellow soldiers is a brave act. However, none of them are. It's a useless test. Giving up one's life for something like that is just stupid. He's a complete idiot," he said harshly. "So what sort of death do you wish for your favorite student, Guy? Sensei? Was it a hero's or a fool's death?" Guy looked at his favorite student, Lee, with a worried expression on his face, clenching his fists and tightening his jaw, unsure of how to respond. Death of a hero or death of a fool? He has done it again, Kakashi thought, unable to take his eyes off his blonde pupil. Like Kurenai, he has changed Guy's perception with words alone, and he possesses all the traits necessary to be a successful leader. At the last second, his gourd turned into sand, saving him from being knocked out, and Gaara stood up as if nothing had happened. "Sand coffin," he said, raising his hand to the side. Lee's right arm and leg were encased in sand. Sand burial. A green blur swiped Lee away before he could kill him, and he used a strong wave of his right arm to throw the attacking sand away. Since he couldn't ignore Naruto's words or stand by and watch his student die at the hands of a redhead, Guy had given up on seeing his student in distress and had taken swift action to save his life. "Why?" Gaara inquired, perplexed as to why anyone would wish to save the boy, his prey. Because he is my student and precious to me, Guy replied. Gaara won this match because of interference and his opponent's inability to continue, Hayate said. After a minute of silence during which everyone was stunned by this sudden development, there was a respectful applause. The medics removed Lee, with Guy following closely behind. This match has cost Lee a lot of money. After witnessing Lee's body in terrible shape, Naruto declared, "Only Senju Tsunade is capable of saving him from that fate. He will never be able to live as a shinobi again with that kind of body." Kakashi nodded, deeply sorry for Guy's pupil, for only a miracle could save the life of the Lee's shinobi now, and only Tsunade Sama could save Lee, and it was especially hard to find her. With this, the round 3 test preliminary trial is now complete. Come back together in front of me, winners, as all of the winners began to make their way back down the arena, Hayate said. The Hokage, Ibiki, Anko, and Hayate stood in front of them after they had all gathered. Hayate said, "Congratulations to everyone who has been granted the opportunity to take the Chunin exam's 3rd round test. Hokage Sama, if you will," he said before turning to face the Hokage. "This time used, not only for yourselves in the capabilities of fighting your opponents but also so that we can tell the right figures and have those all travel here," Hiruzen said, nodding as he glanced at the preliminary round winners. "You can get to know both your enemy and yourself during this period. You used to fight without understanding your opponent's capabilities, but now you have knowledge and your own observations to factor into your battles." He took a deep drag from his pipe and said, "Now, let's decide the order of the finals. Please take a piece of paper from the box that Anko-san is holding. Of course, there are those who have shown everything they can do to you and those who have hidden their potential. This month are to allow for you to rest or improve so your fights can be the best show that our clients wish to see," he said. Anko moved forward, paused in front of each genin, and let them select their piece of paper. When they had all done so, Ibiki moved forward and Anko left. "Please tell me your number, starting with you," Ibiki said, gesturing to Sasuke, who was at the end of the number. "Well, 3, said Sasuke. "I am 6, declared Kankuro. 2, Temari replied. 4, Gaara uttered in a still voice. 8, Neji uttered icily. 5, said Shino. 7, Naruto said, deciding to stay instead of going. "Troublesome." 1, exclaimed Shikamaru. 9, Dosu said. "Very well, Ibiki. San, please show them their match.ups, the Hokage said, nodding. The matches were then displayed on a clipboard that Ibiki held out. Match 1. Temari vs Nara Shikamaru. Match 2. Gaara vs Uchiha Sasuke. Match 3. Kankuro vs Aburame Shino. Match 4. Hyuga Neji vs Uzumaki Naruto. Match 5. Dosu Kinuda vs the victor of Match 1. All of you are now dismissed. Do you have any questions? The Hokage inquired. Does this imply that only one person can become a Chunin since it's a tournament? Shikamaru inquired right away. No, there are several judges judging this competition. Among the names in it are Kazekage, Dono, myself, and a few of our clients. A person is deemed suitable for a Chunin if it is determined that they possess the attributes that we consider important. Even if that individual loses their first match, they will still be promoted, the Hokage responded. When Temari said, so, that mean we all can become the Chunins? According to Naruto, or none of us. The Hokage nodded and said, if that is all. Then you all are dismissed until a month from now. To continue into the finals means you'll get more chances to impress the judges, he said. The Genins then filed out of the room to meet their teammates and Junin-sensei. Very, very, very interesting, Naruto thought. At the bridge, Naruto waited for Kakashi. Kakashi's summon dog had instructed him to meet at Team 7's regular location just over 3 hours prior. A puff of white smoke suddenly materialized in front of Naruto's face. Sorry, I'm late. I got lost on the road of life, Kakashi said when the smoke eventually cleared. I came here late because I knew you would arrive 3 hours later than usual, Naruto replied in a cool, collected tone. Well, that's good, Kakashi remarked as his perspiration stopped. I should have anticipated that he would act in this manner. Anyway, why did you call me here? When Kakashi noticed that Naruto had opened his mouth to speak, he held his hand and said, oh, yes. Hokage. Sama has told me to concentrate on Sasuke training. Hold up now, let me finish, Naruto. He's going to provide you much better instructor than me. I was going to say it was okay. Why? Inquired Kakashi, a little perplexed. Naruto's protest caught him off guard, as he had anticipated. Well, Sasuke needs you more than me, because my opponent probably won't kill me, but his opponent will definitely do. Knowing that Neji had only attempted to kill Hinata because he didn't like her, Kakashi thought, well, that's true. But Gaara was a different matter. He lacked stability. Without hesitation, he would murder Sasuke. He took out a scroll and held it in front of Naruto, saying, but I can't leave you alone. This scroll contains some C rank and B rank fire jutsus. Thanks, Naruto said as he accepted Kakashi's scroll. So, you're going to tech Sasuke Chidori, right? Now Kakashi was taken aback. He inquired, how did you know that? Naruto gave him his honest response, saying, Chidori is the only jutsu that can give Sasuke 40% chance to win against Gaara. Kakashi gave nod. Since Reikari was beyond Sasuke's capabilities, Chidori was one of his most valued jutsu that had a chance to withstand Gaara's absolute defense. Naruto didn't wait for his response before asking, anyway, Kakashi. Sensei, can I ask you something? Why is Chidori considered an assassination technique? That jutsu is so loud one can hear it from a mile away. Kakashi seemed to be considering something as he gazed at Naruto. With a weak excuse, he said to Naruto, maybe next time, Naruto, I will tell you. I have to reach somewhere in the time. See ya. And then vanished. To be honest, he had no idea what the answer was. That was really a lame excuse. Don't you think, Karasu.can? Replied Naruto. From his shadow, Karasu emerged and landed on his shoulder. She exclaimed, yes, master. Hokage. Sama. Hiruzen glanced up at his Anbu from a book he was reading. Uzumaki Naruto is here. Anbu disappeared into the darkness as he nodded. Naruto came into the office a short while later. What can I do for you, Hokage? Sama. Why did you call me here anyways? Asked the man. There's someone who wants to train you for the Chunin exams final, Hiruzen replied. The book was placed on the desk by him. Naruto declared, whatever, and whoever you are, come out now. Out of nowhere, a man emerged from hiding, dressed in a green kimono with a short shirt, matching pants, and armor that protruded from his legs and sleeves. He was a tall man with two shoulder-length bangs framing either side of his face and waist. Length. Spiky white hair pulled back into a ponytail. Oil was written in kanji on a horned forehead protector, and he had red lines running down from his eyes. He remarked, so you've been aware since the beginning, in a humorous tone. Yes, replied Naruto. He asked, and who are you? Even though he knew who the man was. Okay. Wait, the man exclaimed, calling forth a huge toad with orange skin speckled with blue. The man was standing atop the toad. Thanks for asking. I am Mount Myoboku. Gamma's holy master Sennin, also known as Gamma. Sennin and the member of the Hidden Leaf's Densetsu no Sani. I, Jiraiya, am the epitome of manliness. When you are someone like me, you'll only have to flash the sexiness to have women fall at your feet. He began, striking the traditional kabuki pose with the toad posing alongside him. Dropping his perspiration, Naruto turned to face Sarutobi. With a deadpan look, he questioned, seriously, is there something wrong in your teaching? Only female in your former team is a gambler and heavy drinker. Another one is a creep. And this one, he said to Jiraiya, is an idiot. And pervert because he writes those perverted books. Jiraiya yelled, hey, I'm not a pervert. And Naruto turned to face her. He struck a striking pose. I'm the super pervert. Once more, Naruto had looked at the third Hokage. Okay. He's also a shameless, he conceded. Jiraiya, who had heard him and fallen from the toad, protested sharply, but he paid no attention to it. Hey, I'm a good teacher, brat. I taught the most awesome fourth Hokage. This statement was made without even glancing at him. Then he might have a great patience to hear your nonsense. Only if he. By taking a deep breath, Jiraiya was able to control his anger, which had turned his face red. I'll let you sign the legendary toad summoning contract, he replied. In his mind, he was grinning as a chibi Jiraiya performed a victory dance, believing he had captured his godson's interest. No, thanks. As the chibi Jiraiya collapsed on his face, Jiraiya questioned, What? Naruto remained emotionless. Looking at Jiraiya with a slight tilt of his head, he said, I said no thanks. Jiraiya asked, wanting to know the answer, but why? Toads are the best. Hiruzen essentially knew, but he didn't want to tell his student, not in Naruto's presence. Naruto said, because they don't suit me, to Toad, sage. Jiraiya almost yelled, what do you mean they don't suit you? He was baffled by Naruto's refusal to sign the Toad contract. The reason was childish. Naruto, toads are the most powerful summons in the Elements Nation. No, they're not. They are one of the powerful summons but not the strongest, Naruto stated, addressing Jiraiya directly. How about a bet? A bet? Yes, a bet, said Naruto. I'm giving you a chance. If you can convince me the toad contract will benefit me, I'll sign it. However, if you fails in it, you'll never bother me again. Jiraiya said, tell me time and place. I'll be there. He couldn't wait to show his godson how amazing his toads were. Meet me at the training ground 13 tomorrow at 5 a.m. sharp, said Naruto. Then, to hide the smirk from view, he turned around. He left the office by foot. Jiraiya completely spun around to face his sensei. He is much different than I expected, he stated. He had always believed that Naruto would inherit his mother's personality but his father's face. And I am partially correct. Despite his striking resemblance to Minato, he has a very different personality from Kushina's. Before the graduation exam, his personality was much different than now. It was similar to Kushina's, loud and brash, Hiruzen stated, but after the graduation exam. What did happen in the graduation exam? Hiruzen's gaze lowered. The truth hurts, but when it comes out unexpectedly, it harms. It forces to change person completely, he stated. He began to share with his devoted pupil all that transpired during and following the graduation exam. He took a tiny puff of smoke from his kiseru and gently exhaled after he had finished telling everything. And you can see what he has become now. But that much? Inquired Jiraiya. He was still a little unsure. There was no way. No one could undergo a complete transformation in a short period of time. Yes, Hiruzen replied, most likely oblivious to his pupil's thoughts. Anyway, did you find anything about Ryu? Nothing, replied Jiraiya. I found nothing. He seems to appear out of nowhere. This is unsettling. We don't even know who he is, Hiruzen stated. He had hoped that Ryu would be discovered by Jiraiya's spy network. Is that kid really the grandson of Uchiha Madara? Tobi gave a headshake. I'm not sure, but I can tell you he's really a powerful shinobi, he replied. His space time jutsu is more advanced than Tobirama, Sensei and Minota's. Then this kid is dangerous because he is also a Uchiha. Also keep eyes on Naruto. Ryu has shown an interest in him, and we'll lose Naruto forever if we don't do something soon. I'll do my best, Jiraiya replied. But first, I want to test Minato's kid's power, and show him why toads are the best. Well, good luck for that. Hiruzen had doubts about his student's chances of success. Naruto remained as obstinate as ever. Jiraiya and Naruto were in the center of a field that was encircled by dense forest. Only Junins and higher-class ninjas were allowed to use Training Ground 13. Jiraiya didn't know how Naruto found out. Considering that he might have changed his mind, Jiraiya asked, so are you ready to sign the Toad summoning contract? Calmly, Naruto asked, is your old age finally catching up with your mind? Because you've yet to prove their usefulness to me. Out of Jiraiya's forehead, a vein appeared. Relax. He is your godson. He inhaled deeply and pondered. As for my personal opinion, I don't see any usefulness of them, Naruto said. That's it, Jiraiya shouted, gesturing to the blonde. He made hand seals and said, let's see, if you have a gut to tell him what you had told me now. Summoning jutsu. A big puff of smoke appeared. He was standing atop a gigantic toad when it cleared. It was a huge toad, bigger than most buildings, dwarfing most large rock formations, and towering over the trees. It was a dull, rusty red, with brighter red markings on the lips, chest, and around the eyes. Over its left eye, he was scarred. The toad was dressed in a big blue happiness vest. It had a big kiseru pipe in his mouth and a huge dosu blade at his hip. Gamabunta was Toad, boss. He said, so why do you summon me, Jiraiya? Bunta, Jiraiya responded, well, there is a cocky brat who thinks that toads are useless. Where is he? Their vision was suddenly blinded by the black smoke that suddenly filled the area. For entirely different reasons, Toad, Sage and Summon both appeared shocked when it cleared. A big black bird was in front of them. The bird was a raven. The toad boss was dwarfed by it. Its body and wings were covered in many bone, like plates with reddish, gray markings, and its 4 eyes glowed brilliantly red. It had 3 legs, one of which held an odd purple sphere. It was the creature's most peculiar feature. Naruto was standing atop its head. Gamabunta dropped his big pipe, and his eyes widened in surprise. Impossible. How did he obtain this contract? But the question is, how did he fulfill the condition that need to sign the contract? It's impossible, he declared. Who hell is this kid, Jiraiya? It's him, Bunta, Jiraiya replied, perplexed as to why Toad. Boss appeared startled by the sight of the enormous raven. Gamabunta narrowed his eyes at the blond boy and asked himself, him? Oh, I see. He looks just like him. Bunta, you look shocked seeing that black bird. Do you know him? Gamabunta replaced the pipe in his mouth. He blew some smoke after taking a puff of the burnt tobacco from it and said, Her name is Kurayami. She is a Yatagarasu and the boss summon of the ravens. After giving the raven boss a quick glance, Jiraiya remarked, so Naruto has the raven summoning contract. Toad. Boss said, no, the kid don't have a normal contract, which confused Toad. Sage. He has the legendary raven spiritual contract. To sign this contract you need to fulfill one difficult condition. How about, what's it? Jiraiya asked. Kurayami's voice was smooth and maternal as she asked, is there anything else I can do for you, Naruto-kun? Naruto looked at Jiraiya and said, Kura-chan, see that man? He's Jiraiya, one of Leaf's legendary Sannin. That man wants me to sign the Toad contract. That's why I summoned you to show him that I don't need any weak summoning contract. You should show respect to others, Naruto-kun, but anyway, you're our summoner. I'll tell Gamabunta-san and his summoner to leave you alone. Naruto gave a nod. He appeared happy to learn about it. With a respectful tone, Kurayami turned to face another boss summon and said, hello, Gamabunta-san. It's a pleasure to meet you again after a long time. Gamabunta nodded. He said, it's a pleasure to meet you, as well, Kurayami-san, with a modicum of appreciation. She was the leader of one of the fabled summon clans, after all. With a gentle tone, Kurayami asked, could you please tell your summoner to leave Naruto-kun alone? But there was a hint of danger in it. He's our summoner and he's not interested in sign any other summoning contract. Gamabunta shivered, thinking, she can be scary when she wants to be, I'll try. With caution, Naruto dropped from the head of his summons to the ground. He said, thank you, Kura-chan, as he turned to face her. Kurayami said, you're welcome, and then vanished into the void of smoke. Hey, brat! Exclaimed Jiraiya. He had landed beside Naruto after leaping from the Toad boss's head. Where did you get this contract? Naruto gave the Sannin a slight tilt of his head. Abruptly pointing behind the Sannin, he said, what the hell? What is Senju Tsunade doing here topless? What? Jiraiya asked, turning his back in a moment while grinning perversely. Where? He was disappointed to find that nobody was there. He turned back to Naruto, his smile gone. Hey, no one is. He searched for the blonde, but he was nowhere to be seen. Where the hell is that brat? Gamabunta grinned and said, he's gone. He's used your perverted personality to trick you. I like that boy. Jiraiya exclaimed, shit, Sensei is not going to be happy, with a look of mild panic. You should leave him alone, Jiraiya. Kurayami is gentle and kind summons, but she is also one of the dangerous summonses I know. Do not take her lightly. Looking up, Jiraiya saw Gamabunta. He wanted to know everything there was to know about Naruto's contract, so he asked, what do you know about the Raven contract? Jiraiya went into the office of Hokage. He was depressed and a little disturbed. He had been looking for Naruto for the past 4 days, but he had not come across anything of his godson. No lead, no clue, no indication of his whereabouts. It was, hello, Sensei, he said. With an eyebrow raised, Hiruzen questioned, what happened to you, Jiraiya? He was completing his paperwork as usual. Did Naruto sign the Toad contract? No, Jiraiya replied, growing increasingly melancholy, he doesn't need it. What do you mean? He already has a summoning contract. What? Which? Inquired Hiruzen. He didn't know Naruto had a summoning contract already. The Raven contract. According to Gamabunta, it's a legendary contract. A legendary contract? Jiraiya nodded, yes, it is a rare contract. I see, said Hiruzen. With a snap of his fingers, he lit his pipe after filling it with fresh tobacco. What did you find about the Raven contract? They serve for death. God, and live in the border between the world of the living and realm of beyond, Jiraiya stated. Gamabunta also told me a rare condition to sign the Raven contract. Hiruzen was curious to find out more about the contract because, based on the information Jiraiya had provided, it appeared to be quite strong. What is it, Jiraiya? He asked. To sign the Raven contract, you have to touch by the death, Jiraiya said after taking a deep breath. Astonished, Hiruzen dropped his pipe. The death, but Naruto. Oh, he found himself suddenly aware of something. What do you mean? Oh, Hiruzen picked up his pipe and drew a long drag, inhaling the heady aroma of tobacco, then letting out a wreath of smoke. The dead demon-consuming seal. Minato used it to summon the Shinigami to seal the nine-tailed fox's yin chakra into himself and yang chakra into his son. Maybe, that time, Naruto was touched by the death god, he continued. Jiraiya remarked, no wonder they call you the professor, obviously impressed by his sensei's way of thinking. I didn't even think about it. So where is he? Hiruzen said after releasing another puff of smoke. Who? Jiraiya asked, his face bewildered as he glanced at his sensei. Naruto. Jiraiya rubbed the back of his head sheepishly and said, well, he is. I don't know. Hiruzen got up from his chair and asked, what do you mean you don't know? He gave his pupil a narrowed look. I clearly told you to keep eyes on him. What happened, Jiraiya? How was a genin able to run away from a Sannin? Well, I was get distracted. The voice said, and which was a very easy to me, and it was familiar. When Hiruzen and Jiraiya looked in the direction the voice had come from, they noticed Naruto, dressed as usual, leaning against the wall. The words, where have you been, brat? Almost escaped Jiraiya's lips. Naruto replied, I was here and there, which caused Jiraiya's forehead to get a tick mark. The third Hokage caught his attention. Do you know the reason of his distraction? Sarutobi gave a headshake. No, Naruto grinned. Then let me tell you. Hey, Naruto, exclaimed Jiraiya, a little perspiring. Keep it in between us, please. Naruto blatantly ignored him as usual. When I told him standing behind him was topless Tsunade, he couldn't control his perverted nature. Hiruzen said, and he turned to look at Tsunade, and Naruto nodded. Glaring at Jiraiya, he turned to face him. Jiraiya, what am I going to do with you? You're going to get yourself killed, one of these days, if you cannot control your perverted habits. The pot calling the kettle black, muttered Naruto. What? Hiruzen asked, turning to face Naruto. Oh, nothing, I want to say a hidden compartment in 2 drawers left. Hiruzen's mouth fell to the floor. He inquired, how did you know that? How did he discover the secret room where I keep my Icha books? Naruto remarked, well, I've eyes and ears, before turning around and making his way to the exit. Jiraiya said, where are you going, Naruto? You haven't answered my question yet. Ask to the original. I'm just a clone, Naruto said, tilting his head toward Jiraiya, before vanishing in a cloud of smoke. Where is the real Naruto if it was a clone? Jiraiya and Sarutobi both thought. The home of Naruto's summoned ravens and other spiritual animals, it served as the boundary between the world of the living and the realm of death. On the sea of clouds and orbiting what appeared to be a neutron star were floating landmasses, some big, some small. The place's boundless sky was a dark blue like dusk turning to dawn because of the blue star's constant but extremely low light. Additionally, it seemed that floating landmasses were commonplace rather than limited to the jungle area. Similar to the elemental nations, its forests were home to a diverse range of plants and animals. Additionally, they were teeming with bioluminescent life that glowed in the dark in various shades of violet, indigo, green, and blue. The location was breathtakingly gorgeous, as well as fervently for people and lost souls. Naruto was sitting on top of the lake water on one of the floating islands, meditating and concentrating on his chakra. He was aware of what was happening in the hidden leaf despite having been there for months. Daiki and his summons had surveilled the village to observe it and its environs and collect information. Karasu questioned telepathically, aren't you going to warn them about Orochimaru's jutsu, master? She was keeping a distanced eye on Naruto. Naruto responded nonchalantly, no, we already have enough information. No need to tell them that. By the way, that sick Chuunin from the preliminary is dead. He was wrong place in wrong time. He is killed by the sand Chuunin with mask over half of his face. I know. Fourth Cage is also dead. One of the Zetsu clones has found the faceless corpses of him and his bodyguards out in the desert. I know. When he had come in the morning with his false face, I had sensed it immediately from our special bond. One more thing is the fourth Raikage has also come to the leaf with Jinchuriki of 8-tailed giant ox and 2-tailed monster cat. Now, I didn't know about that, said Naruto, opening his eyes to reveal his Sharingan. What is Raikage doing in the leaf with his 2 secret weapons? No one from the cloud has passed the second test. The Chunin exam finals were taking place that day. Tourists, daimyos, and many others had flocked to the stadium to witness the epic battles that would take place later. The stadium had not a single empty seat. Everyone was eager to watch the upcoming matches. Third Hokage, fourth Raikage, and fourth Kazekage were seated in their seats on the cage balcony, waiting for the exam to start. With the exception of Dosu, Naruto, and Sasuke, almost all of the final exam competitors had reached the stadium by the time almost everyone was seated. Only Naruto and Sasuke appeared to have yet to confront Hyuga, Neji, and Gaara, their rivals. "Alright guys, I'm Shiranui Genma, your new proctor. The rules of the combat are the same as in the preliminaries," Chuunin stated in the leaf. He had a big senbon in the corner of his mouth and resembled Mizuki, but he appeared older. The first match of the Chunin exam finals. Competitors Nara, Shikamaru, and Temari, please report to the arena floor for your match. After opening her fan and sending powerful wind gusts in all directions, Temari leapt on it and floated to the arena. Shikamaru gave his opponent a cautious glance. He muttered, "Troublesome," and turned to head for the stairs. On the arena floor, Temari and Shikamaru were positioned opposite one another. Both genins nodded when Genma asked, "Contestants, are you ready?" He lowered his hand. Jumping back, he said, "Begin." Temari sprinted over to Shikamaru, ready to hit her fan. She jumped and slammed the fan on him after the boy had only drawn 2 kunai. They couldn't see a thing because of a huge cloud of dust. All that was visible when it cleared was a Temari's fan nailed into the ground and the girl gazing at it in disbelief. Shikamaru was hanging up with them, inches away from the fan, and had nailed the kunai to the wall. He shrugged and remarked, "I don't care if I can't become a chunin, but a man can't lose to a woman. So I guess I'm in." Temari gritted her teeth and swung her fan forward, clearly not pleased by the boy's remark. Shikamaru was hit by a gust of wind, which produced yet another dust cloud. Once more, when it cleared, Shikamaru was not present. Accepting the challenge, Temari grinned and shifted her gaze around the arena, searching for the boy. She found him in no time at all. On one side of the arena, she saw Shikamaru concealed behind a small tree, seemingly preparing his attack. After a battle between two extremely skilled strategists, Shikamaru outwitted Temari and used his shadow possession jutsu to capture her. However, Shikamaru gave up because he was tired, allowing Temari to win. "Temari from Sand is the winner," exclaimed Genma. Temari was left speechless as Shikamaru approached his group. Kurenai remarked, "Wow, who knew your student had such a genius thinking mind," evidently impressed by the young Nara's scheme. "I was shocked as well. He has the great qualities as a leader. He is calm and can make good decisions in under pressure, and he has great talent as a shinobi," Asuma proudly stated. When he was at the academy, his grades were not that great. He always claimed it was too much troublesome to even move the pencil for the academy written exams. It seems that he would always sleep through his tests. Once, it struck me as strange that he could be so strong at strategic games despite his grades. So I had him an IQ test disguised as a game. I wasn't taking it seriously at that time. Kurenai wanted to know the young Nara's IQ, so she asked, "So, how was it?" Asuma looked at his pupil and grinned. He sure was a diamond in the rough. He is the super genius with IQ over 200. Kurenai's eyes went wide with surprise. 200? Genma sent Temari away, saying, "All right, then let's start the next match. You please clear the area." "He is a good," stated Hiruzen. He had witnessed the Shikamaru vs Temari match. Young Nara had forfeited the match, but his strategy was brilliant. A deserving candidate for Chunin status. With the use of the body flicker jutsu, a leaf Chunin materialized behind him in a cloud of smoke. In a whisper in his leader's ear, he said, "That's just it. We still can't find Sasuke. Maybe we should disqualify him." It had been a good 10 minutes since the last fight ended, and the crowd was starting to become restless. For the second match, they were shouting, "What's going on? Hurry up and start next match. How long are you going to keep us waiting?" "Sheesh," Genma said, observing the audience's conduct. "What's going on? Is Sasuke-kun even here for his match?" Ino asked. She had been searching for her Sasuke-kun for the past 5 minutes. "What the heck is that guy doing? Is he planning not to come?" said Shikamaru. "A wise choice, perhaps?" Confucius said. "The wise do not approach the dangerous," Shino said, adjusting his sunglasses. "We have no choice," stated Sarutobi. "As the rules state, Sasuke will be disqualified." Raikage gave him a nod of approval. Kankuro appeared concerned. To his sister, he said, "If he doesn't come, plan will." Temari answered, "This is bad. What are we going to do?" Hokage. "Dono, please wait a little while longer before making a decision," Kazekage said in response to Hokage's rejection of Uchiha Sasuke. Hiruzen concealed his surprise well. Anyone who takes punctuality lightly doesn't have what it takes to be a chunin. No matter how good they are, he stated. To get his point across, he had hardened his voice. Raikage said, I'm with Hokage. Dono. Uchiha doesn't deserve to be a chunin promotion if he can't come in time for his own match. You, Raikage. Damn you. Cage. Before uttering a word. You are right, Raikage. Dono. But the majority of shinobi leaders and lords, myself included, are here mainly because we wanted to see this next match. Hiruzen noticed that most people were anticipating the match with great anticipation. He received nods from his fellow cages as he stated, very well. We will make an exception and have this match later on, but Sasuke will not become a chunin even if he became the winner of the final match. Sasuke's arrival cannot be prevented, but it is a given. To support his leader's choice, the Leaf Chunin questioned, Hokage. Sama, are you really okay with that? Just let the examiner know, Hiruzen exclaimed. The Chunin said, yes sir, and then vanished in a cloud of smoke. Genma had been told everything by the Chunin, who had been with third Hokage only moments before. After saying, okay, I got it, the Chunin exam protector turned to face the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, the contestant of next match hasn't arrived yet. Therefore, we will push this match back and begin next one. Just what is Sasuke doing? Asuma wondered. What a relief, said Ino with a smile. Sasuke-kun won't be disqualified. And now, the next match. Kankuro and Aburame Shino, come down, Genma exclaimed, glancing up at the competitors. There's no point in this match. My main concern is exposing the trick that was inserted into Karasu prior to the start of the plan. Before making a choice, Kankuro considered, there's no way I'm going to do that. I forfeit. What? Yelled Ino. He is even worse than Shikamaru, at least that lazy bum actually fought first before giving up. Okay, that's unexpected, Genma replied. The fourth match of the Chunin exam finals, competitors Uzumaki Naruto and Hyuga Neji. Please report to the arena floor for your match. Neji crossed the arena with a haughty demeanor. Genma awaited Naruto's arrival. He yelled, Uzumaki Naruto, once more. Please come down to the arena floor or you will lose by forfeit. He noticed that Neji was still grinning cockily, as if he expected him to declare the match a forfeit. What on earth is wrong with both of Kakashi's students? Sakura let out an angry scream. Where is he? Every genin had the same question. Gemna saw the audience growing agitated. He repeated, one last time, Uzumaki na, while shaking his head. He was never given the opportunity to continue. Naruto emerged into the arena accompanied by a swarm of crows. He wore a black shirt, pants, red, black armor with the Uzumaki swirl on the back, and shinobi sandals. He wore metal arm protectors over a pair of black sleeves on each arm. Looking at the new Naruto, Ino exclaimed, wow, I never thought I would say this, Naruto is hot. Her actions caused Shikamaru to perspire. He thought she and Naruto were both troublesome blondes. Gemma said, why are you late, Uzumaki? Naruto told him, maintaining a straight face, I took a long route because a black cat crossed my path. His unimpressive response caused everyone to perspire. But please, don't send another Kakashi, the Leaf Shinobis. Genma said, well anyway, both of you ready? Both Neji and Naruto nodded at him. Begin, he yelled, leaping the arena away. The leader of the Hyuga clan, Hyuga Heishi, was seated in the audience with his daughter, Hyuga Hanabi. One lock of Hanabi's dark brown hair fell into her face, and her bangs were parted long. She had big, white eyes with a tinge of lilac, just like the rest of her clan. Heishi responded, looked at the match, Hanabi. Neji is a true genius. He is true shinobi. He is calm and calculating. You can learn many things from him. Yes, father, nodded Hanabi. She looked down at the match. With assurance, Neji declared, it's your destiny to be defeated by me. Naruto sarcastically remarked, oh, really? Thanks for telling me that. You should quit being a shinobi and start to tell the fortunes to others. Very funny, Uzumaki. Well, I tried my best. Neji said, you should focus less on talking and more on fighting, Uzumaki, and he assumed the gentle fist stance. However, Naruto interrupted him before he could activate his Byakugan. The blonde said, thanks again, Neji. But I have a question for you. The things I have heard about the Byakugan is true? Kakashi emerged alongside Sasuke and his fellow Chunins in the smoke. The devoted Uchiha wore a new outfit that included black shorts, a high-collared shirt with the Uchiha crest on the back, and numerous tiny arm belts around his left arm and similar bands around both legs. Ino and Sakura joyfully exclaimed, "Sasuke-kun!" as they attempted to confront their crush. However, the Uchiha left in time to keep both of his fangirls at bay. Kakashi asked without looking away from his book, "Am I late?" Guy replied, "Yes, you're late, Kakashi, my eternal rival. You're lucky. The Hokage has decided to postpone Sasuke's match," Asuma replied. "But you're in time to see Naruto's match." "Naruto," said Sasuke. He noticed his blonde teammate taking with Neji when he looked down at him. Additionally, Kakashi closed his book to witness a brawl between his students and Guy's. Neji said, "Yes, it's true," with pride. He had assumed Naruto was discussing the legendary status of the Byakugan. Naruto responded, "Oh, so, Byakugan is really a perverted dujutsu." Neji was momentarily stunned and froze. His expression was priceless. Asuma burst out laughing. It surprised him that Naruto would speak to Neji. Kakashi also gave a little laugh. Kurenai and Guy were unsure of how to respond to it. Anko's eyes were watering and she was laughing heartily. She exclaimed, "I like this kid." Jiraiya had nearly revealed himself to others, watching his godson's match from his hiding place. This was the first time he had ever seen Hiashi's face like this. The right eye of the head of the Hyuga clan was twitching with irritation. His expression was priceless. Because he really wanted to laugh aloud like Anko, he thought, "Brat really knows how to push certain buttons." "Well, Master is always like this," said a voice suffering from famine. "What?" exclaimed Jiraiya, startled. A voice had entered his mind. "Just look behind you," said the same voice. He saw a black bird as he turned around quickly. "A raven? A raven. Wait a minute." He questioned, "Are you one of Naruto's summon?" "My name is Karasu. And I'm more than a summon. I'm Master's guardian angel as well as a part of his soul." "A part of Naruto's soul?" "Yes, Kurayami. Sama has created me from Master's soul." The soul has created an animal companion. Observing the bird closely, he thought, "Interesting." "Yes, it's really interesting," Karasu said. Jiraiya's gaze expanded. "You can read minds like Yamanaka." She declared, "I'm better than them. Anyway, tell your leader be careful around K's cage." Karasu had vanished into the darkness before the Sannin could ask any questions. She can therefore move through the darkness. Naruto's refusal to sign the Toad contract is understandable. He believed that the Raven contract was more advantageous than the Toad contract. He squinted at K's cage as he turned to face the cage booth. Neji emerged from his astonishment. "Where the hell did you get this idea?" he screamed, losing all composure. "Well, Byakugan can see through any solid objects, right? It means it can see though the cloths," Naruto clarified. He couldn't tell whether Neji's red face was from embarrassment or rage. In his mind, he grinned. Even though it was a complete lie, he said it in a way that made it easy for anyone to believe it. "And yesterday, in the evening, I saw you near a public bathhouse with your Byakugan active." Tenten's mouth fell to the floor. Her voice was almost a shout. "Neji is a pervert." Guy got up and gestured to Neji with his finger. He cried, "How unyouthful. I'm ashamed to call you my student, Neji." Hiashi sensed that the majority of the women were staring at him. He let out a sigh. He thought, "I shouldn't have come here." He glanced down at the arena, paying particular attention to Neji's opponent. "Why are you spreading such untrue rumors about my nephew?" "I must speak with Neji about it, though, if it is true that he narrowed his white eyes at his nephew. Obviously, the Byakugan is not meant for peeking." Hanabi looks at her cousin incredulously, but Neji.ni.san is a pervert. Neji sensed that most women, especially Hinata's sensei, had murderous intentions toward him. He gave the blonde a scowl. He shouted, "Stop spreading lies about me. I'm not a pervert." According to Naruto, strong denial means it is true. Neji's patience finally gave out because of it. He yelled angrily, "I am going to kill you," and ran as close as he could to Naruto. He had been so furious that he had neglected to use his Byakugan. He started attacking the blonde mindlessly, but she was easily evading all of his blows. Hanabi turned to face her dad. She uttered, arranged by father. Hiashi's perspiration fell at his nephew's actions. He said, "Hanabi, just watch the match," because he didn't want to give his daughter any explanations. Hanabi's gaze shifted to the match. Calm and strategic. "Yes, exactly," she thought, "he's a pervert." Kurenai was giving Neji a fierce look. He dared to peek on her because she had been using the bathhouse with her closest friends yesterday evening, not because he had attempted to kill her student a month prior. "I detest perverts." Kakashi laughed. In an attempt to get Neji to make a mistake, Naruto was trying to provoke him. He also believed that Neji had already erred by underestimating Naruto. Although I don't know much about Naruto's abilities, I do know that he is different from other genins. His mind is devilish. To win, he'll do anything, even dirty tricks. Once more, Naruto avoided Neji's blow. This time, however, he took hold of his hand and tossed him aside. Neji quickly spun around and avoided 5 kunais that were thrown at him, but he was unable to regain his balance. "This is useless," Neji began, but he paused when he felt a sharp pain in his stomach. He noticed that Naruto had struck him. After saying, "You are taking too much," Naruto slashed across Neji's arm with his other arm and pulled a kunai, causing the Hyuga genius to leap back and hold his bleeding arm. Neji's arm was bleeding heavily, but the cut wasn't very deep. "You?" he said sharply as he covered the arm with medical tape to halt the bleeding. He turned on his Byakugan and said, "Now, I know your plan and I'll not fall for it again. Are you prepared to lose, Uzumaki?" With icy eyes, Naruto uttered, "So, you want to dance, huh? Well, shall we dance, Hyuga Neji? The dance of death." Neji's Byakugan came to life. Arrogantly, he asked, "Are you prepared to lose, Uzumaki?" With icy eyes, Naruto exclaimed, "So, you want to dance, huh? Well, then let's dance, Hyuga Neji, the dance of death." Before sprinting in each other's direction, the genins assumed their respective fighting positions. There was no sign of surrender on either side during their incredible taijutsu battle. When Naruto aimed a cross punch at Neji's left jaw, the latter ducked beneath it and aimed his palm at Naruto's stomach. However, Naruto easily caught his hand and threw him 5 yards away. Neji hurried over to hit Naruto with 2 fingers as soon as he was upright, but his fingers pressed firmly against a log, whose surface was far less tolerant than that of human flesh. With a silent cry of anger, he backed away, clutched his hand, and turned back to Naruto. He noticed that the blonde had punched him. He was just in time to avoid being struck by it by leaping out of the way. A tiny bit of earth peeled off the ground as the punch struck it. Choji said to his best friend, "Whoa, did you see that? Troublesome." "Yeah," according to Shikamaru. His eyes narrowed at the blonde. The death dance? Prior to destroying all of Gatu's thugs, Ryu had made the same statement. Does Naruto know Ryu personally? Engaging a Hyuga at close range is a bad idea, Kurenai said, glancing at the match. "What are you saying, Nai-chan? The kid is doing well," Anko remarked, taking pleasure in the spat. "I'm with Anko," according to Asuma. After lighting a cigarette, he took a slow drag and exhaled smoke rings. His gaze shifted to the match. "Just look at fight. Naruto knows what he's doing." Using his metal arm protector, Naruto deflected Neji's blow before seizing him by the arm. Naruto also grabbed Neji's other arm as he attempted to strike him with it. A shadow clone without a seal appeared next to him, and the blonde grinned. The clone punched Neji in the jaw, sending him flying. Slowly, Neji stood up and spat out the blood that had gotten into his mouth. He glared at the blonde angrily and said, "Playtime is over, Uzumaki." Naruto remained silent. To fight Neji up close, his clone dashed toward him. Meanwhile, as the Fuinjutsu markings on his bare skin became visible, the real Naruto performed 2 hand seals. He exclaimed, "Release!" The markings disappeared entirely. Naruto's neck cracked. He said, "Feel good," and cocked his head in Neji's direction to see that he had successfully defeated his clone. Neji was only able to move his head sufficiently to dodge the Naruto's punch because of his improved reaction time, which he had acquired via training with Guy, Sensei and Lee. Suddenly, the blonde had been beside him. With his free arm, Neji attempted a full-on palm strike, but to his astonishment, the blow went right through the blonde. When Neji saw Naruto disappear from his line of sight, his eyes widened. He asked, after image, "Was that a Bushin?" Sakura questioned. Guy stated, "No, it was an after image." He was obviously impressed by Naruto's speed. Kakashi gave a head nod. "So it was a pure speed," Sasuke remarked, focusing his Sharingan eyes intently on his teammate. He looked over at his sensei. What was that last jutsu he used to gain this speed? It wasn't a jutsu. Everyone turned to look in the direction of the voice. They saw a tall, white-haired man. "Jiraiya Sama," said Kakashi. Being able to finally get this great man's autograph on the Icha Golden Edition made him happy to see him. The Cyclops Chuunin was approaching Jiraiya when she said, "Hello, Kakashi." Sakura exclaimed joyfully, "You're Jiraiya, one of Sannin and the teacher of our late 4th Hokage." Meeting one of Leaf's renowned Sannin who didn't want to kill you wasn't something you saw every day. She bowed to him respectfully and said, "It's nice to meet you, Jiraiya. Sama." Jiraiya whispered, "At last, I received the respect I so richly deserve." Only because she doesn't know real you, Karasu telepathically informed him. Jiraiya thought, if brat isn't enough, his summon is also trying to embarrass me. He approached the railing and gazed at Naruto and Neji's altercation. "Anyway, the marking over Naruto's body is a waiting seal," he stated. Ino said, "A waiting seal?" Kakashi clarified, "It's used to increase the weight of living and non-living things. This seal is not for an actual combat. Its primary use is for training in a style similar to Gai's training method." "Why didn't you use this method to train me?" asked Sasuke. Kakashi let out a sigh. "Because this type of training cannot done in 1 month. Any normal person needs minimum 3 months to recover from its side effects." "Then, what about Naruto?" "Well, Naruto," asserted Kakashi. "He was considering the best course of action. He has an accelerated healing factor that allows ripped muscles and tissue to recover faster than normal." Shikamaru questioned, "Naruto has an accelerated healing factor? Like other genins?" He appeared taken aback. "Have you ever seen him injured more than 1 day?" Kakashi asked, turning to face Nara. Shikamaru gave a headshake. "Exactly." Sasuke turned to face his teammate, who was successfully avoiding and blocking Neji's every light fist blow. "Dobi, how are you superior to me?" Naruto leapt out of Neji's way. Before performing 3 hand seals, he produced a shuriken and hurled them at his opponent. Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. The single shuriken expanded to 1,000 in an instant. He exclaimed, "Shit!" 8 trigrams palm rotation, as he started to spin quickly while extending his arms outward, forming a huge dome that would block and deflect all shurikens. When Hanabi saw a technique used by the Hyuga clan's main house, his eyes widened. "Father," she uttered. Heishi was looking down at his nephew and appeared too shocked to respond appropriately. He picked up this method on his own, without assistance. He thought, he's a real genius. Veins rooted from the area around his eye, and he turned on his Byakugan to watch the technique. Sakura questioned, "What is this?" as she cleaned Neji and surrounded him with a blue dome. Tenten's statement, its 8 trigrams palm rotation, caught the interest of every genin. Its most powerful and perfect defense. It's Neji's trump card. Your blonde friend is now in the deep trouble. How is Naruto in trouble? Neji is the one injured in the fight. On the other hand, Naruto looks perfectly fine to me, said Shikamaru. It was a reasonable query. Tenten chose to watch the fight and ignore him. He muttered, "Troublesome woman," when he received no response. The dome died down around him, and Neji stopped spinning. Panting heavily from chakra exhaustion, he sagged to the ground. He had several cuts on his body from shurikens, and blood was oozing from them. How can this be? He pondered. Rotation is the best line of defense. Tenten exclaimed incredulously, "It's impossible. Rotation is an ultimate defense. How were simple kunais able to get through it?" It hadn't occurred while she was assisting Neji in honing this method. Said Kakashi. He had raised his headband to use his Sharingan eye to examine Neji's chakra. There seems to be something off about his chakra, and it's not because of chakra exhaustion. The question was, our ultimate defense has failed, Hanabi thought. Rotation was a last resort. It was a proud technique of the main branch. She couldn't fathom how it had failed. No, Hanabi. Neji didn't use the technique correctly. That's why it's failed to protect him from those shurikens, Heishi replied. He had witnessed his nephew's Byakugan rotation. There is a problem with his chakra. There's a problem with my chakra, Neji thought. I can't control it properly. He noticed his opponent grinning when he looked up at him. What have you done to my chakra? He glared at the blonde and demanded. Naruto's smirk remained on his face. He replied, I drugged you to mess up your chakra control. Neji's gaze expanded. What? When? Naruto gestured toward Neji's arm wound. He had inflicted his first wound on him. The cut was just for distraction, so you couldn't feel the needle I used to inject the drug into you. It's over, Kakashi declared, pulling his headband over his Sharingan eye. To shut the chakra points, user needs to inject right amount of chakra into the opponent's chakra pathway system, but Neji has barely any chakra left to even keep his dujutsu active. He has wasted almost all of his chakra to pull out his last stunt. On the other hand, Naruto, who has 4 times more chakra than me, hasn't used any big jutsu. And only jutsu he had used wasn't much taxing. Anko grinned and said, I like your kid, Kakashi, he isn't afraid to use any dirty tricks. He used everything to gain an edge in the fight. Psychological warfare, lies, drugs. The kid is best. I always know Naruto has devilish mind. Well, this proved my point. You really have some interesting genins, Hokage. Dono, said Raikage. Kazekage questioned, wasn't he dead, last of this academy? Deception is a part of shinobi, Kazekage. Dono, Hiruzen stated. It's better when people think you're weak. They'll underestimate you, and it will make fighting easier. The prime example is Neji, who is paying price for underestimating him. Neji got to his feet shakily. His chakra was insufficient to sustain his dujutsu. He gave Naruto a scowl. He uttered, It is not over, Uzumaki. According to Naruto, it's all over, Neji. Besides, you showed me your trump card. To make this equal, I suppose it's my turn to show you mine. Immediately below Neji, several black chains with sharp, hook-like tips resembling dragon heads shot up from the earth, encircling his arms, legs, and ankle before hoisting him into the air. The Hyuga genius, struggling to break free from his chains, asked, What is this? When he turned to face Naruto, he saw that both of his arms were chained. Jiraiya asked, Chakra chains? Kushina's unique chakra has been passed down to him. However, his chains don't look like hers. Sasuke questioned, What kind of technique is this? I've never seen something like this before. This is a unique technique, which molds the user's chakra into chains which, after materializing, can be used for various purposes such as physically restraining targets, fight them directly, or be used as a means of transportation, Kakashi stated. Jiraiya said, Those chains are really strong, without taking his eyes off his godson, who had everyone's attention. Even while near death, Kushina was able to use these chains to restrain and subdue the nine-tailed fox, enabling Minato to use his special technique to defeat the fox. Where I can learn it? Sasuke asked again after considering the powerful technique. Jiraiya said, You can't, and shook his head. It's a unique technique. Only special group of people can learn it, but they also need a special chakra to use this technique. When Shikamaru asked, You mean it's a bloodline? He reached a single conclusion. Naruto has a clan. Jiraiya cursed himself for providing genins with too much information. Yes, you could say that, agreed the man. Sakura wanted to learn more about her blonde teammate, so she asked, So what is his clan name? Jiraiya let out a sigh. The Uzumaki clan. Never heard about them before, Sasuke acknowledged. Because the clan has destroyed during the Shinobi War, and now only few Uzumaki are alive, Jiraiya said. He had indicated the red symbol on the back of Kakashi's flak jacket. The clan was distant blood relatives of the Senju clan. Even years after their destruction, all shinobis of the Leaf wear the Uzumaki clan symbol onto their uniforms and flak jackets as well as on the shoulders in memory of their friendship. Asuma continued, having taken a long, deep drag from his cigarette. Mito Uzumaki, wife of the first Hokage, was also from the Uzumaki clan. The blonde caught the attention of every genin. They discovered a lot of information about him in the last 15 minutes, even though they were in the same class as him. The famous chakra chains of the Uzumaki clan, Kazekage remarked. This genin is full of surprises, Raikage was able to say. He studied Naruto's face intently. Blue eyes and fiery blonde hair. He is exactly like Yellow Flash. Additionally, he has a surname similar to Uzumaki Kushina. Perhaps. Father, what are those things? Hanabi inquired, pointing to chains that protruded from Naruto's arms. They're chakra chains. They are solidified form of chakra, Heishi stated. He observed his nephew's state. It wasn't good. He is unable to free himself from these chains. Without his chakra, that is. Naruto observed Neji straining to free himself from the restraints. Your struggling is useless. Those chains are made for hold things 100 times bigger and stranger than you, Neji, said the man. Now, forfeit. Never, my destiny. As chains raised Neji into the air and then forcefully slammed him to the ground, Naruto waved his hand. I'm saying it again, you talk too much, he responded. Neji was on the ground, still. In addition to shattering every bone in his body, Naruto's final move also destroyed his faith in fate. How? He inquired softly. Naruto said harshly, because you underestimated your opponent by trusting too much on your destiny rather than yourself. There is no such thing as fate or destiny. It is only created by people who have weak wills. Those who can't think about their own feet, and those who put the blame of everything on something that does not exist, so they won't feel guilty. He glanced at the exam protector. Call the match, it's over. After approaching them and assessing Neji's health, Genma raised his arm. Uzumaki Naruto is the winner, he exclaimed. A brief period of stunned silence was followed by a roar of applause from the audience. Naruto pivoted and began to move away, but he abruptly stopped, as though he had forgotten something. He took a few steps forward and vanished in a cloud of black butterflies after saying, "Another thing, Neji. Even if God comes down from heaven and tells me my destiny is to be a die within the next few minutes, it won't stop me from fighting to see the sunrise of the next day. Even if I fail to do that, at least it will give me some satisfaction that I tried rather than accepting it like a coward." "Brat knows how to talk," said Jiraiya. With a nod, Kakashi replied, "Yeah." Naruto questioned, "So, what are you doing here, shameless pervert?" He had shown up beside Jiraiya. Out of Jiraiya's head, a vein appeared. He yelled, "Brat, stop calling me that. How about pervy? Sage? What, you are a pervert and sage, in short pervy sage." From his position, Kakashi observed the scene with a sense of amusement. Sakura questioned incredulously, "Jiraiya, Sama is a pervert?" Naruto turned to his team's lone female member. Pinky nodded when he asked, "You know about those adult books that Kakashi reads in public, right?" He gestured to the Toad Sage and said, "Well, he's the author of those books, and his favorite pastime is sneaking into a women's bathing house." When Sakura heard it, her mouth fell open. He was shocked to learn that one of the fabled Sannin, Jiraiya, was a pervert. "Oh no, brat," Jiraiya thought, sensing the glare of women around him. Even the intent to kill was being leaked by some of them. Guy screamed, "That was really a youthful match, Naruto.kun," and walked over to Naruto. After striking a nice guy pose, he produced a green jumpsuit that resembled his, and Lee appeared to disappear. "This is the youthful dress for youthful person like you." Naruto's mouth moved back and forth. Thanks for offer, Guy. Sensei, but I cannot accept this." "Sorry," he replied. "And shouldn't you with your student Neji? It's, unyouthful to stay here to watch the match when your student is badly hurt and need you most." "Yosh!" exclaimed Guy. And he ran toward the infirmary to see how Neji was doing. "You're right, Naruto.kun. Thanks for saving me from being unyouthful." Kakashi remarked, "Nice way to avoid Guy, Naruto." The next match is Sabaku no Gaara vs Uchiha Sasuke, Genma announced. Ino said, "Hey, forehead girl," to attract Sakura's interest. "Sasuke. Ken's match is going to start soon." Everyone listening to Naruto turned to watch the eagerly anticipated match between the final devoted Uchiha of the Leaf and the youngest child of the fourth cage down at the arena. Naruto was staring up at the cage booth rather than down at the arena like everyone else was. Interesting, according to him. He spoke so softly that it was hardly audible. Ni Yugito, the container of cat, and Killer Bee, the container of ox. Long, straight, and blonde, Ni Yugito was a woman who was bound with taut bandages. She wore purple fingerless gloves, a chain of blue beads wound around her left hand, a short, sleeved black and purple blouse, and black pants with a cloud-like design. Killer Bee, on the other hand, was a muscular man with dark skin, blonde hair, and a goatee. He had a bull's horn tattooed on his left cheek and the kanji word for iron tattooed on his right shoulder. He was dressed in the traditional strap over shoulder flak jacket of his village, along with oval-shaped sunglasses and a white forehead protector. Jiraiya inquired, "Where did you get this information?" He obviously heard what the blonde had said because he was standing next to Naruto. In the cloud, it was well known that Yugito and Bee were Jinchurikis of cat and ox, but this was not necessarily the case in the Leaf. The Toad Sage caught Naruto's attention. He remarked, "Well, I've eyes and ears, anyway, you shouldn't be wasting your time here." "And why is that? Karasu-chan, could you please tell him why?" Out of the shadow, Karasu sat on her master's shoulder. "Because some nins outside of the village's walls are waiting for a signal to summon snakes, and other than the master's summons, only your summonses are big enough to stop them." Jiraiya's eyes widened and then changed to those of a shinobi who had endured war and witnessed the deaths of many of their comrades. "Where?" he inquired. "North side," replied Naruto. Jiraiya gave a nod. With a quick series of hand seals, he vanished in a cloud of smoke. When Naruto looked over at the match, he saw that the proctor had already begun the battle between Sasuke and Gaara. The final devoted Uchiha was striking his opponent with his newly acquired speed, which was close to Lee without his weights on. The blonde thought, "Not bad," and he turned abruptly to leave. "Naruto, where are you going?" Kakashi inquired as he noticed his blonde pupil in motion. Stopping, Naruto tipped her head back to gaze at him. "To bathroom," was his response. After accepting the response with a nod, Kakashi returned to view his other students' match. Naruto stopped when he arrived at a particular location. He scanned the area for any possible danger. He sensed that there were no other ninjas in the area, so he found nobody. He yelled, "Zetsu!" and saw a white Zetsu clone slowly rise from the earth close by. "Good, you're on time." He pressed his glowing hand into Zetsu's chest after creating 5 sets of hand seals. Zetsu's shape began to ripple and tremble like water. Then it contorted. It transformed into an exact replica of him in less than a minute. Naruto withdrew his hand from the chest of his special clone. He gave the order, "Go and take my place." "Yes, sir," said clone Naruto, saluting him. As he walked in the direction of Chuunin Stadium, Naruto shook his head at the actions of his special clone. "Karasu-chan, stay with him," he commanded. "Yes, master." 3 spinning tomos surrounded the center of his blood-red pupils. Then a vortex formed in his right eye and he vanished, sucked into it. Sasuke was mimicking Lee's taijutsu moves on Gaara when Naruto's clone arrived just in time. Did he use his Sharingan to copy it? Gaara had created a sand clone earlier, and Sasuke kicked it quickly. He then struck the clone a few more times quickly, reducing it to a pile of sand. He began to run in the direction of the real Gaara, leaving a thick trail of dust in his wake, and vanished. Sasuke was right behind Gaara as he dodged a few sand attacks as he prepared and launched a wave of sand in front of him. Like Lee, he kicked the sand genin, sending him back to the opposite end of the stadium. "What's wrong? Is that it?" Sasuke asked, his foot raised in the air. "Amazing." The majority of Leaf Genins who were observing the battle thought. Without waiting this time, Sasuke dashed back toward Gaara and circled the boy until he ducked beneath a ring of sand that Gaara was using as a protective mechanism. Grabbing the straps of his outfit, he kicked him quickly, bringing the sand shinobi onto his knee before he walked away, clearly having trouble breathing. "What? His taijutsu is similar to that of Lee Dotsan," Sakura thought in amazement, "and his speed is completely different than before." Kakashi was standing next to Naruto, who appeared impressed. He observed Sasuke panting heavily and remarked, "It's impressive if he can archive such speed in only 1 month. But keeping up that kind of movement uses up a lot of stamina." He glanced at Gaara and saw that his condition wasn't much better than Sasuke's. "The good thing for him is that his opponent's sand armor also uses up too much chakra," he said, turning to face Kakashi. "Both of them can't keep it for long. Sasuke will get only one chance to use that jutsu, and if he fails to use it effectively..." He raised his eyebrows. "Did you ask him about his favorite flower?" "Believe in your teammate, Naruto," spoke Kakashi. He was aware of Naruto's meaning. Here, Sasuke's chances of winning were slim. Then, as Gaara raised a hand seal, sand started to pour in from all sides and start to form a big sphere. When Sasuke got close to it, several sand spikes shot out of the side, almost impaling him. He tried to get a shot in before it closed. Gaara isn't. Kankuro thought it wasn't that jutsu. His face showed obvious fear because he had no idea what kind of jutsu his brother was employing. Sasuke was closely examining the sand sphere in an attempt to identify any flaws. "It gets this hard when it's packed tight," he thought, panting, using all the sand to protect himself. A complete defense. To Sasuke's surprise, a tiny eye of sand appeared in the air close to the sphere of sand. Temari panicked and thought, "There's no doubt about it, it's that jutsu. This is awful. Gaara has completely forgotten about the plan." It's not that we were late. After giving it some thought, Sasuke wasted no time in trying to break into the sphere using his strength and speed, but he discovered that his efforts were in vain. He took a step back from Gaara. He was expending too much chakra and was breathing heavily. "No good," I thought. "I have no idea what he's up to, hiding in there, but this is ideal because mine takes some time as well." "Oh no, Gaara. Baki, a Chuunin, level shinobi of the hidden sand, said, you won't be able to see the signal." Baki was the sand sibling's Chuunin. Sensei. He is a very tall man with 2 characteristic red markings on the right side of his face, which is the only part of his head that is visible. The rest of his face is hidden by his headgear, which resembles a turban, and a sheet that hangs from it on the left side. Temari, who knew her brother well, swore, "Damn. Once he's like this there's nothing that can be done. Does Gaara want to mess up plan?" Shino could hear everything Temari said because he was close enough. Make a plan? What are they talking about? He wondered. Then, using chakra to keep himself rooted, Sasuke ran high up one of the walls before coming to a stop. He lowered his bandaged arm to the floor, or wall, and the other firmly held his wrist. He sealed his hands quickly. Everyone was interested in what Sasuke was doing, with the exception of a select few who had identified the jutsu. Around his hands, sparks and lightning started to form. It gave off a menacing buzz. Incredible, you can clearly see a chakra in his hand. What's going on? Sakura pondered. This impressed her as much as it surprised her. And what's this technique? And this sound? The answer was, a simple stab, Naruto said. He was examining Sasuke's technique closely. Huh? Sakura asked, growing more perplexed by the blonde's response. This is Kakashi Sensei's first original technique. Naruto turned to face Sakura and attracted the attention of all the genin who were curious about this technique. He turned back to the arena and glanced at Sasuke, who was busy using the technique. This technique channels a large amount of lightning chakra to the user's hand. The amount of chakra is so great that it becomes visible. The high concentration of electricity produces a sound reminiscent of many birds chirping. Once the technique is completed, the user charges forward and thrusts it into the target. This produces heavy amounts of damage that is usually fatal. Ino inquired, what's it called? The earth and wall were torn apart as the final devoted Uchiha ran in the direction of the sand sphere. The jutsu screamed like 1,000 birds as the Uchiha drew closer and closer. The irony. Chidori. Sasuke yelled as he drove the blade, like jutsu, into the sand. Sakura grinned broadly as she observed Sasuke. Ken's new technique effortlessly pierced the sand shield, exclaiming, what an amazing technique. When Naruto said, yes, it's really powerful technique, she once again paid attention. However, it has several weaknesses. For one, it requires a large amount of energy to be used and the user must be able to move at high speeds in order to get the necessary velocity. However, its greatest weakness is that while in use, the user is afflicted with tunnel vision, able to see only what is directly in front of them. This leaves the user open to counter attack if they miss their target. Only Sharingan users can negate the drawback because of their Sharingan, which takes in every detail, regardless of how fast the user is moving. Naturally, Kakashi was a little taken aback. Just how much do you know about my technique? Asked he. Few people were aware of his technique's flaw, and it wasn't really common knowledge. Gazing directly at Kakashi, Naruto declared, knowledge is power. It can change the world for better or worse. Do you know what one of my dreams is? My dream is to collect all the knowledge of the world. I want to know everything. Learn everything. After shaking his head, Kakashi turned to examine the state of his other pupil. He witnessed Sasuke's hand pass right through the Sand Genin's unwavering defense. Two Sand siblings and their sensei appeared astonished and a little frightened, as they were unable to comprehend what they were seeing. Kankuro's eyes widened in surprise. He exclaimed incredulously, no way. Gaara's absolute defense has been. It can't be. Exclaimed Temari. She wasn't in much better shape than her brother. Impossible. Baki exclaimed. Sasuke, I've got you, he said. Gaara had never experienced anything like it inside the cocoon before. On his shoulder, he experienced an odd feeling. What's worm stuff? Mother, what's it? Asked the man. Gaara screamed in agony and shock, and everyone in the stadium could hear it outside of cocoon. For the first time in his life, he had been injured. My blood, blood. Sasuke noticed a clearly demonic arm following him out, so he flared his Chidori again to get away after failing to remove his arm from the sand. Temari saw her brother's blood on the sand and thought, it can't be. No way, Gaara was wounded. Then, as Sasuke clutched his arm in agony, the arm retracted into the sand shield, revealing a large yellow crossed iris inside the circular shield, another distinctly demonic feature. Sasuke shuddered in terror at the intimidating gaze he was shot. What's going on, Kakashi? Sensei. Sakura exclaimed in terror as she saw that Sasuke was hurt and losing. The entire match had been completely upended in a matter of minutes. Kakashi didn't look at her or respond. Naruto. He uttered those words. With a nod, Naruto responded to his sensei's unasked question by saying, he's losing control. Hey, bro, said B. Yes, B, he said as he turned to face his adoptive brother. He's just like us, B replied. He's a Jinchuriki. In addition, Yugito nodded and said, and he seems to be quite unstable to me. What? He jerked his head around to face Kazekage and yelled, are you crazy? You sent Jinchuriki, who is unstable, to take the Chunin exams. With a laugh in his voice, Kazekage remarked, Rakage. Dono, I'm not much different than Hokage. Dono. There is another Jinchuriki in the exams. The strongest Jinchuriki is the tail. Beast. Furthermore, he hails from the leaf. Am I correct, Hokage? Dono? Yes, Hiruzen said, squinting his eyes, but he's stable unlike your son. Kazekage gave his most trusted man a covert signal while grinning in his head. Did he change into his full form? Kankuro questioned his sister. As Temari put it, I'm not sure, he appears to have been injured, this has never occurred before. They were equally concerned. The one-tailed was the most dreadful thing either of them had ever felt uncomfortable seeing, and even with their plan, Gaara still frightened them unreasonably. The boy had no inhuman features, which greatly confused Sasuke, and the sand shield crumbled to reveal a bleeding, seemingly terrified Gaara. His shoulder was bleeding, but the brown strap over his shoulder was undamaged, even though the Chidori had taken a fairly strong hold on the nearly impenetrable shield of sand. He recognized the jutsu and flared his chakra to break the genjutsu surrounding him. Naruto felt a spike in his chakra and felt a veritable sea of chakra falling from above. He looked up and saw a mass of white feathers falling from the skies. He thought, Temple of Nirvana Jutsu. Subsequently, an explosion in the cage booth shocked almost every Leaf Chunin by enveloping the 3rd Hokage, 4th Raikage, and 4th Kazekage, as well as their guards, in dense smoke. The genins, who had successfully dispelled the ninjutsu, were unsure of how to respond in such a scenario. To keep Gaara from deviating from the plan any further, Temari and Kankuro took advantage of the chaos to reach him, and Baki and Genma then emerged next to Sasuke and the Sand siblings, respectively. Baki said, Gaara, the plan, as he glanced at the youngest Kazekage child, who was clenching his head in agony. Temari said, know it, since she knew what was wrong with her brother. What's the matter? Kankuro inquired. Stupid. We're trying to change into your full form before the signal, Baki said. Jinchuriki or not, he was her younger brother, so Temari knelt next to Gaara to check on him. He's experiencing side effects, she said, adding, it's impossible to proceed now. So what are we meant to do? Without Gaara, do it, exclaimed Kankuro. Abort the mission, Baki said, keeping his gaze fixed on Genma. You guys take Gaara and take a retreat. How about you? Temari inquired. Baki said, I'll join the battle, go. Ia. Temari nodded, and she and Kankuro promptly grabbed Gaara before vanishing over the stadium wall. What's happening? After asking without receiving a clear answer, Sasuke collapsed in a fit of rage as one of the Anbu agents took a long needle out of his neck. The masked traitor said, Orochimaru. Sama sends you his regards, Sasuke.kun, and then he leapt to the side, barely avoiding the shurikens coated in wind chakra, before turning to face his assailant and saying, hello, Naruto.kun. Kabuto, Naruto said in a level, composed voice. Very good, Naruto.kun. Standing over Sasuke's fallen form, Kabuto said cheerfully, you recognize me, taking off his mask. Traitor, what did you do to him? Genma snarled. Enough of the small talk, Baki said, advancing on Genma and Naruto. Baki slammed into the barrier, stopping him from moving further, as Naruto grew his black chakra chains from his back and buried them in the ground around Genma and Sasuke, creating a barrier of chakra chains around them. What on earth is this? After being knocked to the ground by impact, Baki yelled, got to his feet, and used a wave of his hand to create Blade of Wind. The attack struck the barriers with force but had no effect. Two chains suddenly sprang up from the ground and attempted to encircle Baki and Kabuto. While Kabuto managed to escape capture, Sand.Nin was not as fortunate and was lifted into the air by the chain that wrapped around him. Kabuto said, better luck next time, and vanished from the battlefield by employing the body flicker jutsu. Genma said, take Uchiha to the hospital, Uzumaki. I'll take care of him. Naruto knelt down to grab Sasuke's shoulder and vanished with him in a flurry of butterflies, leaving Genma to handle Baki. Naruto nodded, painfully dropped the Sand.Nin to the ground, and retreated chakra chains back to his body. The Leaf Ninja, particularly Kakashi and Guy, beat back the Sand and Sound ninjas who jumped in from all sides of the stadium. Kakashi remarked, a large number, as he observed a large number of Sand and Sound ninjas attacking the hidden leaf. Although they lacked their skill, their numbers were still substantial, and defeating them all would not be simple. It goes beyond that. Instead of speaking in his typically youthful voice, Guy said, look at the roof of the central watchtower. The situation is more dire than that. That's a barrier ninjutsu, Kakashi remarked, looking up to see the 3rd Hokage imprisoned inside a purple barrier. Kakashi, look within the barrier. Kakashi's only eye grew wide with surprise. Orochimaru, he yelled. Sakura, one of the genins who had successfully dispelled the Kabuto's genjutsu, thought, Orochimaru? Why is he here? Hopefully not for us. Two sound ninjas suddenly materialized in front of her, poised to eliminate her. Huh? Said the kunoichi with the pink hair. As soon as he appeared between them, Kakashi killed the sound nins instantly by driving kunais into their skulls. Sakura, take caution, he uttered those words. Sakura said, Kakashi, sensei, what's happening? The hidden leaf is under attack by the combined forces of sand and sound, Kakashi stated. Naruto, who had arrived with an unconscious Sasuke, said, we've got another problem, Kakashi. Sensei, sliding Sasuke's collar to reveal a Mitsudomoi marking on the left side of his neck to Kakashi. Kakashi's single eye widened. Heaven's cursed seal? He uttered those words. Kabuto is a traitor, Naruto said, nodding. He's one of the Orochimaru's men, and he's to blame for Sasuke's condition, he said. Kakashi thought, this is bad. Naruto went on, but this is only a minor issue. Gaara is unstable. Before it's too late, we must stop him. So, what are you thinking about? Thinking that Naruto would have kept something for Gaara, Kakashi inquired. With a sly smile, Naruto showed Kakashi a small piece of paper that he had taken out of his pouch. Although Kakashi was not a master of Fuinjutsu, he recognized the design on the paper, which he believed to be a much more sophisticated version of a chakra suppression seal. Tanuki's chakra may be suppressed by it. It will be simple to get past Gaara's sand defense without the special chakra, Naruto remarked, putting the suppression seal in his pocket. Sakura didn't know what they were discussing. Tanuki? She wondered. After a few minutes of silence and introspection, Kakashi said, okay, but take your some fellow genins with you for help. No, they'll only slow me down. Before Kakashi could respond, Naruto backflipped over the railing and began to fall toward the arena below. Karasu, who was twice as large as any other horse, appeared out of the shadows, flew up and caught Naruto in midair. Naruto jumped onto her back, and Karasu spread her wings, which caused them to soar higher into the sky and disappear with a loud boom. What was that, Kakashi? Sensei? Sakura asked, her jaw hanging loosely and her eyes as wide as dinner plates. After responding, it must be his summon, Kakashi turned to Sakura and said, Sakura, wake up Shikamaru. I sense that genjutsu has no effect on him. Naruto's refusal to accept assistance does not preclude us from providing it. Rika. Sama, what should we do? Yugito inquired. It's not our village, I replied. We're not fighting this. Standing outside the purple barrier with some leaf anbu, he and two hidden cloud Jinchuriki had used their skills to avoid being trapped inside, but they had no idea why the third Hokage chose to remain inside the barrier without engaging in combat. As he watched Hiruzen discard his Hokage robe, he thought, perhaps he knew or had a clue that Kazekage was Orochimaru in disguise. He was wearing his battle armor. The hand seals required for each jutsu were swiftly created by Hiruzen and Orochimaru. Bushin no Jutsu, Shuriken Cage. Before hurling a single shuriken at his former pupil, Hiruzen uttered those words. One shuriken turned into 1,000, and they all headed directly for Orochimaru. Orochimaru summoned the name of his jutsu. Impure World Reincarnation. Summoning, he cried out in a gleeful voice. 1. A single coffin with kanji of 1 rose up from the ground. 2. In the same way as the first, the second coffin with the second kanji rose up. Hiruzen, who was making hand seals while keeping a close eye on both coffins, thought, to use a summoning as a shield. And these corpses are. The third. As the third coffin with the third kanji rose up like the first and second, Orochimaru called. As he performed some hand seals, Hiruzen thought, I have to do something about fourth one. He expended as much chakra as he could to cancel Orochimaru's technique. The fourth. All of the coffins succeeded in protecting Orochimaru from Hiruzen's attack, though the fourth one, which had the kanji of the fourth, rose up but stopped in the middle. Hiruzen thought, I stopped the fourth one, but it's getting harder now. Of all people, for him to summon those three. He recognized all the chakra signatures that coffins were releasing, and although he had known the first two personally, he had battled the person in the third coffin. You are able to prevent the third coffin. Not important, Orochimaru stated. 3 well known faces emerged from the coffins. The first two were Senju brothers, Senju Hashirama and Senju Tobirama, the first and second Hokage, who were from the Hidden Leaf. Tobirama was a tall, fair, skinned man with white, shaggy hair, red eyes, and 3 red markings on his face. one on his chin, one under each of his eyes, and he wore the wartime garb of kin. Armor emblazoned with the Senju symbol worn over a plain black suit, with a characteristic white fur collar. Sandals and a hapuri engraved with the leaf emblem, in lieu of the more conventional forehead protector. Hashirama was a tall man with dark eyes, tanned skin, and waist length black hair that was usually styled in a center parted fringe that framed his face. How dare he? When the fourth Raikage saw the third person Orochimaru had called, he gritted his teeth in rage. The third was the third Raikage, the father of the fourth Raikage, a tall, dark-skinned man with a long beard and a full head of white hair that flowed into his back. His eyes were unusual, with green irises, dark sclera, and no pupils. His face had prominent creases across his forehead with a mole above his right eyebrow. His top lip was also darker than his bottom lip. His canine teeth were also slightly elongated. He had the kanji for lightning tattooed on his right shoulder, and a lightning bolt shaped scar ran across the right side of his chest. He usually wore the Hidden Cloud's characteristic single strap flak jacket, which had no clothing underneath, and a black forehead protector that he wore like a bandana. Change of plan, A said, turning to face Yugito and B. He said, go and assist the Leaf Ninja in protecting their home. Bro, but you said that it wasn't our fight, B replied. Indeed, it wasn't a fight between us. But Orochimaru has gone too far in upsetting my father's soul. With a hint of rage directed at Orochimaru, I declared, now, it's our fight. I have to figure out how to get inside the barrier to show Orochimaru what happens when you mess with the Hidden Cloud. In front of the fourth Raikage, Ryu arose from the ground like a ghost and said, oh, I can help you with this. Yugito and B both hurried to take defensive positions in front of their leader. Ryu narrowed his eyes and spoke. Raikage Sama, hello. I can assist you in passing through the barrier? B. Watch out for this guy. The Eight Tails sensed Ryu's chakra and warned, his chakra seems familiar. Yugito heard the two-tailed cat say, be careful around this man, kitten. Without removing her gaze from Ryu, Yugito inquired, what's wrong? There's something wrong, kitten, but I can't tell you what. Why should I have faith in you? I squinted at S-rank ninja and asked. I'm a ninja, so you can't trust me. You can choose to trust ninja or not, Ryu said. You have a choice. You can choose to stay here and observe or take the chance. B. Get down, Yugito. He took a step forward and said, I'll take a chance. To which Yugito replied, but Raikage Sama, I heard someone say, Yugito, go and help the leaf. Yugito nodded, signing. After saying, very good decision, Raikage Sama, Ryu vanished and then reappeared in front of the fourth Raikage, grabbing his shoulder before vanishing once more, this time with Raikage. The demon containers of the Hidden Cloud and all Lee Fanbu, who were observing, thought, quick. Hiruzen was flanked by Ryu and the fourth Raikage. Ryu, Orochimaru replied, I didn't expect you would come here to help Sensei, you two Raikage. A said, you've disrespected my father by summoning him here to your own gain, since he was so eager to use his lariat to cut Orochimaru's head. Everyone turned to listen to Ryu's statement, my reason is different, adding, I didn't want to waste the opportunity to fight with the person my grandfather saw as his equal. Opening their eyes, the three fabled ninjas emerged from their coffins.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.